Chapter 1791. People's desires were always infinite. At first, Xie Yin and Lan Chao were very satisfied that each of them could get 25 immortal crystals, but soon their expressions returned to normal. Among them, Xie Yin stretched out a finger and said indifferently, 100. You. Seeing that Xie Yin and Lan Chao were so greedy, Jing Fei wanted to refuse directly. However, Jing Fei had no other choice in the current situation. Fine, 100 it is. I hope you keep your promise. After glaring at Xie Yin and Lan Chao, Jing Fei tore the void and rushed out. Jing Fei's target was not Ningyu, but Zhang Chong. Although Ningyu had killed Jin Ji and Jin Cheng, in Jing Fei's view, Ningyu was still not a threat. As long as he could get rid of Zhang Chong, Ningyu would be like a lamb waiting to be slaughtered, a fish on the chopping board. Hua! The moment Jing Fei rushed out, and Haoping quickly rushed out to stop him. Whoosh! Whoosh! Unfortunately, Xie Yin and Lan Chao stood on both sides of Haoping, firmly blocking his path. Get out of my way! Seeing the two late-stage Sage Realm martial artists blocking in front of him, and Haoping suddenly stopped and said coldly, "This matter has nothing to do with you. I hope you won't get involved." "I'm sorry. I took your money to get rid of this disaster." Xie Yin and Lan Chao shrugged at the same time, expressing their helplessness. Xie Yin even rolled his eyes and suggested, "Why don't you give us 100 immortal crystals and we can leave immediately?" Kill. Even though it was 1 against 2, and Haoping still rushed forward resolutely. In fact, Haoping was very helpless. Ningyu had ordered him to stop Jing Fei. Now that Jing Fei had rushed out to fight with Zhang Chong, he was safe and sound. Once Ningyu became ruthless, he was likely to be finished. Even if it was for Ningyu to see, he had to fight with all his might. Rumble. The fight between the 3 late-stage Sage Realm martial artists was so spectacular that it even overshadowed the other battlefield. However, the fight between the 3 of them did not attract too much attention. Old Man Tianji, Xiun, Xiao Yang, and the rest placed their attention on another battlefield. Puqi. Even though Zhang Chong tried his best, he still couldn't block Jing Fei's attack. 3 moves. In just 3 moves, Jing Fei had beaten Zhang Chong until he vomited blood and flew backward. You killed a member of the Jin family. Today, you will be buried with them. After defeating Zhang Chong, Jing Fei moved his feet and walked towards Ningyu step by step. Jing Fei's speed was very slow. As he walked, he increased his aura. He wanted to use his aura to force Ningyu to kneel down. Ka-ka. As the distance between Jing Fei and Ningyu shortened, Ningyu's bones made cracking sounds. Let's see how long you can last. Jing Fei continued to increase the pressure. At the same time, he said coldly, "Anyone who offends the Jin family will not have a good ending." Really? Ningyu stood where he was. No matter how his bones made cracking sounds, his expression did not change. Ningyu even took out a key from his robe and waved it at the tip of his finger. He said softly, "I originally wanted to use this key to open the bronze door. Now it seems like I can destroy it." As he spoke, a dark golden flame appeared on the fingertips of Ningyu's right hand. Chi! Chi! The flame burned the key and made a sizzling sound. Whoosh! Looking at the key on Ningyu's fingertips, Jing Fei instantly withdrew his aura. His face became extremely cold. "Give me the key and I will let you live." Jing Fei resisted the urge to explode and said in a low voice, "Otherwise, I will let you know why the flowers are so red." "You want the key? I'll give it to you." Ningyu showed an indifferent look. He shook his wrist and wanted to throw the key to Jing Fei. Wait. However, before Ningyu threw the key, 3 voices sounded at the same time. Xie Yin, Lan Chao, and Ziyun. Without a doubt, the 3 of them were the ones who spoke. Lan Chao and Xie Yin did not bother to stop Haoping. They quickly flew down and landed not far away from Ningyu. "I think we can talk about the ownership of the key." Xie Yin was the first to speak. He pretended to be nonchalant and said, "The key can open the bronze gate. With the key, we can save a lot of trouble." "That's right. The key should be kept by a reliable person." Lan Chao agreed. "What do you mean?" Jing Fei's face instantly turned cold. He reprimanded, "Am I unreliable?" You misunderstood. I'm not saying that you're unreliable. I just feel that there's someone more reliable. Lan Chao was not angered by Jing Fei's reprimand. He waved his hand and said, I feel that old man Tianji is more reliable. The key can be kept by him. I agree. At this moment, Ziyun, who had been silent all this while, spoke. Ziyun's opinion was the same as Lan Chao's. She wanted the key to be kept by old man Tianji. I have no objections. Xie Yin agreed as well. Good, very good, very good. Jing Fei had suffered a huge blow today. The people from the other 3 empires had agreed to this matter. He could only give up and was forced to agree. Crack! Suddenly, the space next to Ning Yu split open, and an Halping emerged from the void. I think we can talk about the distribution of the immortal crystal mine now. With a flick of his wrist, Ning Yu threw the key into his sleeve. Then, Ning Yu's calm voice rang out in the area. The Cloudy Wind Empire, the Heavenly Dragon Empire, and the Purple Sun Empire will each take 30%. The remaining 10% will belong to us. Do you have any objections? When Ning Yu's words rang out, the entire area fell silent. Xie Yin and the others stared at Ning Yu in shock. Was it really okay to divide the Jin family's immortal crystals so brazenly? Was Ning Yu not afraid of the Jin family's revenge and Jing Fei's madness? However, since it was not their business, Xie Yin and the others did not want to ask. If Ning Yu could really get rid of Jing Fei, each of them would get an extra half of the immortal crystals. Why not? Therefore, when Ning Yu and Jing Fei met, Xie Yin and the others did not show any reaction on the surface, but were actually very excited. I think you're tired of living. Due to his anger, Jing Fei's body could not help but tremble. If he was not afraid of Xie Yin and the others getting in the way, Jing Fei would have killed Ning Yu long ago. Given the current situation, Jing Fei did not dare to take the initiative to attack. Putting aside the fact that his mission in Four Corner City was to obtain the immortal crystals, even if he took the initiative to attack, he might not be able to kill Ning Yu. After all, the late-stage sage next to Ning Yu is not weak. I am indeed tired of living. Come and kill me if you can. Chapter 1792. Jing Fei was so angry that his lungs were about to explode after being rebuked by Ning Yu. Jing Fei really wanted to kill Ning Yu, but he knew very well that this was not the time to do so. Once he made a move, there would definitely be someone who would stand up for Ning Yu, and Halping would definitely stand on Ning Yu's side. As for Xie Yin, Lan Chao, and Ziyun, they would most likely stand on Ning Yu's side as well. If they really made a move, the Jin family would not be able to get a single piece of the immortal crystals in the immortal crystal vein. Therefore, for the sake of the immortal crystals, Jing Fei could only resist the urge to kill Ning Yu and said in a deep voice, I have a suggestion for the distribution of the immortal crystals in the immortal crystal vein. The original distribution will remain the same. Each family will get a quarter of the immortal crystals. As for Ning Yu, I will give him 5% of the immortal crystals. Xie Yin and the rest's faces instantly turned ugly when they heard Jing Fei's distribution. According to Ning Yu's distribution, each family would get 30% of the immortal crystals. However, according to Jing Fei's distribution, each family would only get 5% of the immortal crystals, which was 5% less. There were a total of 1,000 immortal crystals in the immortal crystal vein. 5% would be 50 immortal crystals. The two distribution methods were a difference of 50 immortal crystals. How could Xie Yin and Lan Chao agree to it? Quickly settle the matter between you all. See you at the back of the mountain in half an hour. Ziyin left those words without any expression on her face. Shortly after, she leapt and flew towards the back mountain of Four Corner City. Xie Yin and Lan Chao looked at each other in a daze as they watched Ziyun leave. In the next moment, Xie Yin led the remaining 3 cultivators from the Heavenly Dragon Empire and disappeared in the blink of an eye. As for Lan Chao, he also tore the void apart with Lan Ming and Lan Hua from the Cloudy Wind Empire. You've gone too far. After Ziyun and the rest disappeared, Jing Fei's face turned completely gloomy. Ziyun and the rest had made their intentions very clear. Let him duel with Ning Yu. Whoever wins will get the reward according to the distribution method. Although Jean Fei was extremely unwilling, this was the best solution at the moment. This Saint middle-stage martial artist has basically lost his fighting strength. Jean Fei's gaze shifted. He first looked at Zhang Chong, then at Elder Tianji and Yunmu. Zhang Chong was nothing to worry about, and neither was the Elder of Heavenly Secrets. As for Yunmu, Jean Fei was a little worried. Ever since the Giant Shield City incident, all the Jin family experts who had descended from the higher planes knew that Yunmu was the reincarnation of an old monster. Therefore, Jing Fei was very afraid of Yunmu. "Ningyu, give me the key, and I can let bygones be bygones." Jing Fei withdrew his gaze and stared at Ningyu, saying, "I can even be your guide and guide you to a higher plane." Noisy. Ningyu was too lazy to talk nonsense with Jing Fei. He waved his hand and said coldly, "And Haoping, go kill him." Yes, and Haoping never dared to neglect Ningyu's instructions. Xiao, and Haoping's figure flashed and turned into a shadow. In the blink of an eye, he appeared next to Jing Fei. His fist, which contained terrifying primordial qi, fiercely punched toward Jing Fei's head. As a peerless expert of the infamily, and Haoping had killed a Saint late-stage martial artist before. Even Jing Fei, who was also a Saint late-stage martial artist, did not dare to say that he could withstand this punch with 100% certainty. When a tiger doesn't show its power, you really think that I'm a sick cat. Jing Fei was extremely angry. He gathered all the primordial qi in a sea of consciousness to his wrist and punched backward. The fist, which also contained terrifying primordial qi, collided with Haoping's fist. Bang! The two fists collided. An extremely clear sound rang out. Then, two figures flew backward at the same time. Judging from the distance, they flew back, and Haoping and Jin Fei were evenly matched in this blow. You don't seem to be worried. While Haoping and Jing Fei were fighting, Ningyu moved and came before Tianji Laoren. He asked doubtfully, and Haoping and Jing Fei should be evenly matched. If Ziyun and the rest suddenly come back, the situation might be disadvantageous to us. Why aren't you worried at all? What's there to worry about? Tianji Laoren smiled and said, although Haoping and Jing Fei are evenly matched, there's still a Saint late-stage white-haired elder. Once that white-haired elder comes out, won't Jing Fei lose in a matter of minutes? The reason why Tianji Laoren was not worried was because of the white-haired elder. Little did he know that the white-haired elder was currently in a weakened state. Without the help of the immortal ascension grass, he might not be able to recover in his lifetime. There's a small change in the situation. Ningyu felt that he had to explain it to Tianji Laoren. Otherwise, it wouldn't be good for Tianji Laoren to think that the situation was still under his control. The reason why Ningyu dared to go against Jing Fei was because he knew that the four great empires were not united. As long as he was willing to sacrifice his own interests, the other three great empires would definitely not stand on Jing Fei's side. However, nothing was absolute. As long as the Jin family had one more Saint late-stage warrior, the other three great empires would probably have to compromise. What change? Tianji Laoren was slightly startled and asked in confusion. Due to some reason, the white-haired elder may not be able to fight in a short time. Ningyu said, so I wanted Haoping to stay here and stall Jing Fei. We'll go to the back mountain and enter the fairy crystal lode. Wow. Ningyu's words set off a storm in the hearts of Tianji Laoren and Yunmu. To be honest, the reason why they dared to gamble was that there were two Saint late-stage warriors on Ningyu's side. Now that Ningyu said that one of the Saint late-stage warriors could not fight, how could they not be shocked? To put it simply, if the white-haired elder could not fight and Haoping was stalled here, even if they went to the fairy crystal lode, they would not be able to get many fairy crystals. It was even very likely that they would be eliminated by Xie Yan. Yunmu looked at Tianji Laoren, wanting to confirm if what Ningyu said was true. Tianji Laoren flicked his wrists and kept making gestures. After a while, Tianji Laoren took a deep breath and his face turned livid. What should we do? Tianji Laoren's reaction made Yunmu understand everything. Without the support of a Saint late-stage warrior, How do they talk about fairy crystals? What are you afraid of? We'll deal with it when it comes. Let's go. Ningyu waved his hand and looked indifferent. He moved his feet and walked directly to the back mountain of the square city. Stop. Seeing Ningyu leaving, Jean Fei was furious and wanted to rush over. However, an Halping stuck to Jean Fei like a dog-skin plaster, making Jean Fei unable to get away. Let's go too. Tianji Lauren's face was gloomy. He made another divination and then gritted his teeth and decided to follow. Although there were many variables in what would happen next from the divination, Tianji Lauren chose to believe in Ningyu's luck. Chapter 1793. For Corner City, Back Mountain. In front of a huge bronze door. Cloudy Wind Empire, Heavenly Dragon Empire, and Purple Sun Empire. The people from the three empires stood on both sides of the bronze door. In the middle were Ningyu, Elder Tianji, and the others. Before opening the bronze door, there's something I want to discuss with you. Ningyu did not open the bronze door immediately. Instead, he played with the key in his hand and said calmly, regarding the ownership of the immortal crystals in the lode, I want 20%. Do you have any objections? 20%? Xie Yin and the others were slightly stunned when they heard Ningyu's words. Then, their faces darkened. According to the previous agreement, Ningyu could only get 10% of the immortal crystals, and the remaining 90% would belong to the three empires. Now that Ningyu asked for 20% of the immortal crystals, how could Xie Yin and the others agree? However, no matter how much they disagreed, no one came forward to refute Ningyu. No one wanted to stand out. If Ningyu dared to come here, it meant that he must have a backup plan. What if Ningyu had a late-stage sage martial artist with him? He wanted benefits, but did not want to stand out. That was what Xie Yin and the others thought. Since no one has any objections, I'll take it as a yes. Seeing that no one refuted, Ningyu shook the key in his hand and walked toward the bronze door. Perhaps he was giving Xie Yin and the others time to think, but Ningyu's speed was not too fast. In fact, it could be said to be very slow. It took him 3 minutes to walk such a short distance. 3 minutes later, Ningyu stood in front of the bronze door and flicked his wrist to throw the key into the hole on the bronze door. Wait. However, as soon as Ningyu raised his wrist, a low voice was heard. Do you have a different way of distributing the immortal crystals? Ningyu seemed to have expected that someone would stop him. He flicked his wrist and threw the key into his storage ring. Then, he stared at Ziyun and said, Why don't you tell me? Whoosh. Ningyu's words caused everyone's gaze to shift over to Ziyun. It's not a problem if you want 20% of the immortal crystals, but you have to bring out the strength that matches it. Xie Yin and Lan Chao are both in the late phase of the Saint Realm. Although I'm in the middle phase of the Saint Realm, I'm not weak. The three of us are responsible for mining the immortal crystals. Tell me, why are you getting 20% of the immortal crystals? That's right. Why do you want 20% of the immortal crystals? In my opinion, giving you 10% of the spiritual crystals is too much. Since Ziyun had taken the lead, Xie Yin and Lan Chao started to criticize Ningyu. The more they talked, the more exaggerated they became. In the end, they didn't even want to give Ningyu a single celestial crystal. They wanted to eliminate Ningyu completely. What the hell is Ningyu trying to do? Seeing that Ningyu had angered everyone, Yunmu lowered her voice and complained to old man Tianji. Originally, we could have gotten 10% of the immortal crystals. But now, it looks like it'll be hard for us to even get one. Since we're already here, let's just take things as they come. Although old man Tianji didn't say much, his meaning was clear. Believe in Ningyu. Since Ningyu dared to increase the immortal crystals from 10% to 20%, it means that he has the confidence to do so. But I'm worried that old man Tianji's words weren't enough to make Yunmu feel at ease. I'm sorry, but I've changed my mind. Before Yunmu could finish her words, Ningyu waved his hand and said, Originally, I only wanted 20% of the immortal crystals. Now, I feel that you should give me 40%. Russell. When Ningyu said those words, Xie Yin and Lan Chao were dumbfounded. Not only were Xie Yin and Lan Chao dumbfounded, even Ziyun was a little dumbfounded. Don't you understand the situation? Now that we have the upper hand, no matter how you look at it, you're in a weaker position. Why do you still dare to ask for 40% of the immortal crystals? Did he lose his mind? You said that if you want as many immortal crystals as you want, you have to show the corresponding strength. At this moment, Ningyu shrugged and said, the Cloudy Wind Empire, the Heavenly Dragon Empire, and the Purple Sun Empire all have many sages. Moreover, the most powerful one is a late-stage sage. If that's the case, as long as I have a late-stage sage on my side, wouldn't it be reasonable? Of course, I'll get 5% of the immortal crystals. You're making it sound better than a song. Why don't you ask your late-stage sage to come out? Xie curled his lips and said disdainfully, let me make this clear first. The late-stage sage who fought with Jing Fei doesn't count. Lan Chao looked vigilant and said, Jing Fei is still very powerful. It's still unknown who will win. Ningyu did not respond to Xie Yin and Lan Chao. Ningyu was very clear that Xie Yin and Lan Chao were just talking. The one who could really make the decision was Ziyun. Once Ziyun agreed, Xie Yin and Lan Chao would definitely not have any objections. Yes. After a moment of silence, Ziyun nodded and said, as long as you can get another late-stage sage on your side, we have no objections to you taking 5% of the immortal crystals. Roar. As soon as Ziyun finished speaking, a loud roar came from Ningyu's body. Boom. Ziyun was completely stunned when she heard this shocking roar. Qilin. Others might not have heard anything, but Ziyun knew very well. The one who had just roared was a genuine Qilin. Gulp. Apart from Ziyun, even Xie Yin and Lan Chao, who were next to her, were horrified. Even Ziyun, a native of the immortal spirit realm, knew that it was a Qilin roar, let alone the two of them who had come from a higher realm. They did not expect Ningyu to have a Qilin with him. The key is in my hands. Without my help, it will be very difficult for you to open the bronze door. So, I want 40% of the immortal crystals. You guys don't have any objections, right? Ningyu's words rang in the ears of Xie Yin and Lan Chao. This time, Xie Yin and Lan Chao did not refute, because their thoughts were no longer on the immortal crystals, but on how to inform the experts of their families. A living Qilin was a rare commodity even in the higher planes. Compared to a living Qilin, what was an immortal crystal mine? Let's lure him into the mine first, then work together to capture that Qilin. Xie Yin and Lan Chao looked at each other and communicated with each other using a secret technique. Ziyun narrowed her eyes. No one knew what she was thinking about. I agree. Ziyun did not think for long before she said in a deep voice, there's no time to lose. Hurry up and open the bronze door. I guarantee that I will give you 40% of the immortal crystals. Straightforward. Ningyu smiled. He flicked his wrist and threw the key into the hole on the bronze door. Click. The key made a crisp sound when it was turned. Creak. Chapter 1794. Swoosh. Once the bronze door was completely opened, Ningyu, Ziyun, Xie Yin, and Lan Chao took the lead and rushed in. The second wave of people to enter the bronze door were the remaining people from the Cloudy Wind Empire and the Heavenly Dragon Empire. Yunmu, Elder Tianji, and the rest were the last to enter the bronze door. Although they were the last to enter the bronze door, Yunmu and the rest were not dejected. On the surface, it seemed that the first to enter the bronze door would be the first to reach the immortal crystal vein. However, Elder Tianji and Yunmu knew very well. The immortal crystal vein must be very dangerous. An immortal crystal vein located in a low-level plane, there might be a super expert or a super demonic beast guarding it. Therefore, it was not a bad choice to be the last to enter. Speed up. Lan Chao could not take it anymore after the slow start and shouted, let's reach the immortal crystal vein as soon as possible and mine all the immortal crystals in a day. You guys go first. This is my speed anyway. Ningyu did not intend to speed up and continued to advance slowly. Ningyu's actions made Xie Yin and Lan Chao gnash their teeth in anger, but there was nothing they could do. After all, he had a Qilin with him. It was better not to provoke Ningyu before they knew the Qilin's true strength. If the Qilin was a late-stage sage, they would be dead meat. After all, A late-stage sage Qilin's overall strength was enough to kill a cultivator of the same cultivation level. It's fine if it's slower. Lan Xiao took a deep breath and resisted the urge to explode. We're not far from the immortal crystal vein anyway. We should be able to reach it in 10 minutes at this speed. Ningyu glanced at Lan Xiao, but did not say anything. 10 minutes wasn't long, but it wasn't short either. At least for Lan Xiao, these 10 minutes were very hard to bear. During these 10 minutes, Lan Xiao felt that Ningyu was laughing at him and mocking him. However, Lan Xiao did not resist for the sake of the bigger picture. Instead, he was thinking about how to use a secret technique to inform the higher-ups of the Lan family. Xie Yan's thoughts were similar to Lan Xiao's. Initially, when he discovered that Ningyu had a Qilin on him, his first thought was to inform the powerhouses of the Xie family. However, on second thought, Xie Yan felt that he could not use the secret technique. At the very least, he could not use it around Ningyu. Who knew if that Qilin had locked its aura onto them? It would be fine if he didn't, but once the Qilin locked its aura on them, and they happened to use a secret technique and were discovered by the Qilin, the consequences would be dire. Ningyu was not someone to be trifled with. He could give up a warrior at the late stage of the Saint Realm to stall Jin Fei. Maybe he could also give up Kylin to stall them. Drip. Time continued to pass. 10 minutes had finally passed. According to our investigation, the cave ahead is the entrance to the immortal crystal vein. Xie Yan pointed to the cave not far away and said, Ningyu, you can bring the Qilin out now. Ziyun, Lan Xiao, and the Qilin. The four of us will do our best to mine the vein. Let's try to excavate the entire immortal crystal mine within a day. You want the Qilin to participate in the mining of the immortal crystal vein? Ningyu looked at Xie Yan as if he was looking at an idiot and said lightly, Do you want me to ask him to come out and have a good talk with you? Roar. The moment Ningyu's voice fell, the Qilin let out another earth-shattering roar. Hearing the Qilin's roar, Xie Yan's face turned pale and he was stunned on the spot. The Qilin's wrath. As a warrior at the late stage of the Saint Realm, Xie Yan really felt the Qilin's anger this time. If Xie Yan didn't know the Qilin's cultivation before, he now knew the Qilin's real cultivation. The late stage of the Saint Realm. From the Qilin's terrifying aura, Xie Yan could roughly judge the Qilin's cultivation. It was indeed at the late stage of the Saint Realm. I'll let you show off for a while. Xie Yan glared at Ningyu fiercely. Then he jumped and was the first to rush to the cave where the immortal crystal vein was located. Swoosh! Seeing Xie Yan rush out, Lan Xiao did not stay idle. His figure flashed, following closely behind Xie Yan as he dashed out. You knew about it. Ziyan stood where she was and did not show any intention of rushing out. She turned around and looked at Ningyu. She frowned and said, Aren't you afraid of offending the Xie family and the Lan family by doing this? You should know that there are peak sages among the warriors from their two clans who descended from the high-level plains this time. Before Ningyu could reply, the expressions of Xiao Yang, Lan Ming, and the others changed slightly, and they revealed serious expressions. At this time, no matter how stupid Xiao Yang and Lan Ming were, they knew that they had been tricked by Ningyu. However, they still did not know how Ningyu had schemed against their two families. How about working together? Ningyu casually glanced at Xiao Yang and Lan Ming and said indifferently, Let's split it 50-50. You're really wishful thinking. Ziyan still frowned and did not agree to Ningyu's suggestion immediately. However, it could be seen that Ziyun was already tempted. 50% of the immortal crystals had a special meaning to her. Boom! At this moment, an earth-shattering rumble suddenly erupted from the cave, not far away. What the hell is that? What the hell is that? Xie Yan and Lan Xiao's terrified screams accompanied the earth-shattering rumble. Seems like I was right. It really is Dan Shi. Looking at the figure fighting with Xie Yan and Lan Xiao, Ningyu revealed a relieved expression. Although Ningyu looked calm on the surface, he was actually quite nervous. If not for little Qilin telling him that there was a super strong Dan Shi at the cave entrance, he definitely would not have been able to tell. The Dan Shi in front of him had reached the terrifying late-stage Saint Realm and was only a step away from the peak Saint Realm. Ningyu could basically conclude that, Xie Yin and Lan Chao together were definitely not a match for this Dan Qi. Seems like the celestial spirit state is not simple. It was not that Ning Yu had not met Dan Qi before and had even fought with him. He knew that there was an army of Dan Qi in the celestial spirit state. However, Ning Yu was very clear that Dan Qi, who was born and raised in the celestial spirit state, definitely could not reach the late-stage saint realm. Therefore, there was a high possibility that this late-stage Dan Qi came from a higher plane. Recently, the celestial spirit state had undergone earth-shattering changes. First, the demon spirit state army invaded and several continents fell. Then, the higher planes frequently sent people down to fight for the source energy. Now that he saw a late-stage sage Dan Qi, how could Ning Yu not be surprised? Although he was surprised, Ning Yu said to Ziyun, "I'll leave these two small fries to you. What are you doing?" Chapter 1795. How is that possible? Ning Yu took a few steps back and looked at Ziyun in shock. I'm only a mid-heavenly supreme cultivator, while Xie Yin and Lan Chao are both late-phase Saint Realm cultivators. How am I capable of dealing with the two of them? Then what do you mean? Ziyun's face darkened when she heard Ning Yu's words. You're not dealing with Xie Yin and Lan Chao, but you want me to deal with the remaining people from the Cloudy Wind Empire and Heavenly Dragon Empire? What are your intentions? Nothing much. I just want to tell you that Xie Yin and Lan Chao will definitely be killed by Dan Zhong. Ning Yu shrugged and said casually, my mission is to deal with Dan Qi after he wins. Are you sure you're not joking? Ziyun's mouth was slightly agape as disbelief filled her face. If Ning Yu said he would deal with Xie Yin and Lan Chao, Ziyun would not have such a reaction. However, Ziyun was extremely shocked that Ning Yu wanted to deal with Dan Zhong. She even looked at Ning Yu as if he was an idiot. In Ziyun's view, Xie Yin and Lan Chao should be stronger than Dan Zhong in terms of overall strength. After all, Xie Yin and Lan Chao came from a higher plane and definitely had trump cards. But now, Ning Yu said that Dan Zhong would win. How could Ziyun not be shocked and astonished? What's the point of joking? Just watch. Dan Zhong will definitely win. Ning Yu smiled. Why don't we swap? I'll deal with the remaining cultivators from the Cloudy Wind Empire and Heavenly Dragon Empire, while you stay behind to deal with Dan Zhong and Xie Yin. Ziyun hesitated when she heard how certain Ning Yu was. At this moment, Ziyun's thoughts had already changed. Perhaps Dan Zhong could really defeat Xie Yin and Lan Chao? The more she thought about it, the more she felt that it was possible. Bang! Bang! However, just as Ziyun was about to make her choice, something happened at the cave entrance that left her dumbfounded. Xie Yin and Lan Chao punched out at the same time. One left and one right. Two punches landed on Dan Zhong's body at the same time. Two crisp sounds rang out. Then, like a kite with its string cut, Dan Hen flew straight towards the entrance of the cave. I'll deal with the remaining people from the Heavenly Dragon Empire and the Cloudy Wind Empire. You go and deal with the victor of the battle over there. The sudden change caused Ziyun to be slightly stunned. But very quickly, Ziyun recovered from her shock. She hurriedly said to Ning Yu, when everything is settled, we will split the celestial crystals in the celestial crystal vein in half. Xiao. As she spoke, Ziyun's silhouette flashed, and she charged out. In the Heavenly Dragon Empire's Xie clan, aside from a late-phase Saint Realm like Xie Yin, there was also an initial-phase Saint Realm, Xie Liang, and two pinnacle Heavenly Sovereigns. Apart from Lan Chao, who was a late-stage saint, the Lan family of the Cloudy Wind Empire also had Lan Ming and Lan Hua, who were early-stage saints. On the surface, Ziyun's cultivation might seem to be in the middle phase of the Saint Realm, but her true fighting prowess was extremely terrifying. Rumble. Ziyun didn't make a move, but the moment she made a move, it was a killing move. In just a single exchange, she had killed two Pinnacle Sky Supremes from the Xie family. You, how dare you offend our Xie clan? Xie Liang's pupils shrank, and he even stuttered. So what if I offended you? Ziyun couldn't be bothered to talk nonsense with Xie Liang. She dashed out again and locked her target on Xie Liang. Let's leave quickly. Seeing that Ziyun had chosen to attack Xie Liang, Lan Hua and Lan Ming felt that their opportunity had come. They immediately tore the void and entered. Because Lan Chao was still fighting Dan Zhong, Lan Hua and Lan Ming did not choose to leave after entering the void. Instead, they moved closer to Lan Chao. Pucci, perhaps because she didn't notice Lan Hua and Lan Ming leaving, Ziyun's main attention was on Xiaoyang. 3 moves. In just 3 moves, Xiaoyang was beaten to the point where he vomited blood and his face was pale. Die! Ziyun grabbed the void with her right hand and quickly pushed it out. Boom! A terrifying Yuan Qi shockwave almost reached Xiaoyang's neck in the blink of an eye. No! Looking at the Yuan Qi shockwave, Xiaoyang's pupils shrank and he hurriedly wanted to beg for mercy. However, before Xiaoyang could finish begging for mercy, he stopped abruptly. The terrifying shockwave directly swept past Xiaoyang's neck. Thump! As for Xiaoyang, his eyes were wide open and his body suddenly fell backward. At this moment, early-stage Saint Xiaoyang, who came from a high-level plane, had died in battle. Gasp! Gasp! In the void, Lan Hua and Lan Ming gasped at the same time when they saw that Xiaoyang had been easily killed. Their strength was actually almost on par with Xiaoyang. Xiaoyang had been killed in 2 or 3 moves. It was conceivable that they would not be able to last more than a few moves if they went out. Fortunately, Lan Chao is about to kill Dan Zhong. Lan Ming turned his head to look at the situation at the cave entrance and felt slightly relieved. As long as Dan Zhong was killed, Ziyun would definitely not dare to cause trouble for them. This was because no matter how strong Ziyun was, it would be difficult for him to fight against Lan Chao and Xie Yin at the same time. Pucci. Dreams were plentiful, but reality was harsh. Lan Ming's relief did not last for long. His hair began to stand on end. 2 consecutive sounds of people vomiting blood could be heard from the battlefield not far away. Lan Ming was very familiar with the 2 martial artists who vomited blood. One of them was Xie Yin, and the other was Lan Chao from the Lan family. Die! When it rains, it pours. Just as Xie Yin and Xiaoyang were vomiting blood from the bombardment, Ziyun quickly rushed over. Now that Xiaoyang was dead, Ziyun's target naturally fell on Lan Ming and Lan Hua. Help! At such a critical moment, Lan Ming and Lan Hua shouted without hesitation. How dare you! Lan Ming and Lan Hua's roars attracted Lan Chao's attention. Lan Chao was extremely furious when he saw Ziyun rushing over with a murderous aura. He shouted with all his strength. Whoosh! However, Lan Chao had overlooked one thing. He was fighting Dan Zhong. As the saying went, in a battle between experts, even the slightest mistake could result in death. When Lan Chao was fighting Dan Zhong, he had shifted his attention to Lan Hua and Lan Ming. This was a huge mistake. He had to bear the consequences of his own mistake. Dan Zhong opened his mouth wide and spat out 2 beams of cold light. The beam of cold light aimed at Xie Yin was blocked by Xie Yin with all his might. However, it was very effective against Lan Chao's cold light. Although Lan Chao dodged slightly to the side at the critical moment, his left arm was still cut by the cold light, leaving a long bloody scar. I'll deal with you later. Lan Chao knew the severity of the situation. To be more precise, Lan Chao had chosen to abandon Lan Ming and Lan Hua so that he would be invincible. Lan Chao, you can't just ignore us. Lan Chao's action of abandoning a pawn to save the king had completely made Lan Ming and Lan Hua despair. Chapter 1796. However, without Lan Chao's protection, how could the 2 of them escape? Moreover, since Ziyun had decided to kill them, she would not give up until she achieved her goal. Her figure flickered as she waved her hands repeatedly. In an instant, several Yuan Qi shockwaves swept out, rushing towards Lan Ming and Lan Hua from all directions. Fight! Under the threat of death, people could always erupt with astonishing energy. Lan Ming and Lan Hua were like that. The 2 of them looked at each other and saw the determination in each other's eyes. In the next instant, the 2 of them retaliated at the same time, wanting to fight to the death with Ziyun. Ningyu, do you really think that Pill Puppet will win? After watching Ziyun's battle, Elder Tianji's gaze shifted to the other battlefield. In Elder Tianji's opinion, Lan Ming and Lan Hua would definitely lose. Although there might be some twists and turns in the process, the outcome would not be unexpected. The terrifying battle strength that Ziyun had displayed when she killed Xiaoyang was comparable to a peak late-stage sage. In other words, even two mid-stage sage experts could be instantly killed by Ziyun, not to mention Lan Ming and Lan Hua, who were early-stage sage experts. Since the outcome was already decided, Elder Tianji's attention shifted to the other battlefield. In truth, Elder Tianji had secretly divined just now. According to the divination, Dan Zhong and Xie Yin were evenly matched, and neither had an overwhelming advantage. But from Ning Yu's words, it seemed that Dan Zhong would definitely win. This situation naturally made Elder Tianji very puzzled. Ever since he had come into contact with Ning Yu, Elder Tianji had begun to have some doubts about the divination art that he had learned. This was because there had been several times when the results had deviated from what his divination had shown. It was easy to explain once, but what about the second and third time? As the only person in the immortal spirit realm who had grasped the divination art, it was reasonable for Elder Tianji to doubt the authenticity of the divination art. According to the records, the original divination art was not in the immortal spirit realm, but in a higher plane. Therefore, the divination art that Elder Tianji had grasped was learned from a handwritten copy. More or less. Ning Yu's reply made Elder Tianji roll his eyes, a little speechless. When he was conversing with Ziyun earlier, he swore that Dan Ming would definitely win. But now, he sounded uncertain again. How could the Elder of Heavenly Secrets not be speechless? Then are you really going to deal with the winner of Dan Hua and Lan Chao's group later? The Elder of Heavenly Secrets asked again. No matter who won, Ning Yu would have to face the winner in the end. In truth, the Elder of Heavenly Secrets also hoped that Dan Shi would win. This was because Lan Chao and Xie Yin were both at the late stage of the Sage Realm. Once they won, Ning Yu would have to deal with the two late-stage Sage Realm warriors. Once Dan Zhong won, Ning Yu would only have to face himself. Ideally, the Elder of Heavenly Secrets hoped that Dan Ling would win. Of course, all of this was under ideal circumstances. As for which side would win, Old Man Tianji had no idea. That was because he couldn't divine it at all. Wrong. Ning Yu shook his head and shifted his gaze in another direction. Ning Yu was looking at the bronze gate. It's not me dealing with the victor between them, but Ning Lu. Ning Lu. The Elder of Heavenly Secrets opened his mouth in disbelief. The Elder of Heavenly Secrets knew Ning Lu very well. He was at the mid-stage of the Sky Supreme level, and his overall strength was comparable to a peak Sky Supreme. If Ning Yu had asked Qilin to fight, the Elder of Heavenly Secrets might not have been so surprised. After all, Qilin was very powerful. But the Elder of Heavenly Secrets couldn't understand why Ning Yu had asked Ning Lu to fight. Not to mention Ning Lu's age. Even if he was very powerful, he was only equivalent to a peak Sky Supreme. Asking Ning Lu to step forward and help? Wasn't this clearly a trap for Ning Lu? Don't be fooled by Ning Lu's appearance. How could Ning Yu not know what the Elder of Heavenly Secrets was thinking? He waved his hand and said, Ning Lu looks like a child of 6 or 7, but he has lived for tens of thousands of years. How is that possible? Before the Elder of Heavenly Secrets could react, Yin Mu blurted out, there can't be someone in the celestial spirit realm who has lived for tens of thousands of years, unless he survived from the ancient times. So what if you believe me or not? Ning Yu rolled his eyes and said, your current mission is to swiftly retreat and not let the aftershock of the battle affect you. I'll say the ugly words first. If you're killed by the aftershock of the battle, then I won't step forward to help. Don't worry, I promise I won't let you help. Yin Mu's expression was a little ugly, but now that Yin Mu needed Ning Yu's help, he could only choose to keep his mouth shut. Crack, crack. Just as Yin Mu shut his mouth, on the other side, Ziyun threw 2 punches at Lan Ming's and Lan Hua's hearts. 2 cracking sounds rang out. Lan Ming and Lan Hua's eyes widened, and their auras plummeted. What a pity. Ning Yu stared at Lan Ming and Lan Hua, whose auras were rapidly weakening, with a look of pity on his face. If he devoured both of them, he would at least be able to reach the late stage of the Sky Supreme, or even the peak stage of the Sky Supreme. Ningyu wasn't a fool. The energy in Lan Ming and Lan Ho's bodies wasn't pure, so he couldn't purify it with his own ability. Unless someone was willing to help, he could only watch helplessly with so much energy. However, although Lan Ming and Lan Ho couldn't devour it, the distant Dan puppet could. Ningyu had been observing it for a long time. The Dan puppet fighting Lan Xiao and Xie Yin was both an Yuan Qi Dan puppet and a Soul Dan puppet. In other words, if he devoured the late-stage Saint Dan puppet, Ningyu's cultivation would reach the peak stage of the Sky Supreme without any obstruction. After all, the energy in the Dan puppet's body was extremely pure. Done. I'll leave the rest to you. Just when Ningyu was letting his imagination run wild, Ziyun's figure flashed and flew to Ningyu's side. She said indifferently, "No matter who wins in that battle, I will not make a move. Don't worry, I definitely won't let you help." Ningyu smiled and didn't say anything else, focusing on the battlefield. Don't be fooled by Ningyu's solemn and confident appearance. In truth, he was more nervous than anyone else. Since it was a battle, all sorts of changes could happen. As Ningyu contacted Ning Lu, he also communicated with the little Qilin in the Tower of Ascension. Prepare for both. Ningyu didn't want to be anxious at that time. If Dan Puppet won, then Ningyu would let Ning Lu fight it out. Ning Lu was the world tree, so he had a fatal restraint on Dan Puppet. But if Lan Xiao and Xie Yin won, they would have to rely on the little Qilin. However, the little Qilin's cultivation was still at the early stage of the Sage Realm, and it hadn't advanced to the mid-stage of the Sage Realm. Chapter 1797. If Xie Yin and Lan Xiao won in the end, Ningyu would really be worried that the little Qilin wouldn't be their opponent. After all, a skinny camel was still bigger than a horse. The little Qilin wasn't like Ning Lu, who had a fatal restraint on Xie Yin and Lan Xiao. Up to you. Seeing Ningyu's solemn expression, Ziyun shrugged her shoulders and no longer spoke. Since Ziyun and Ningyu didn't speak, Old Man Tianji and Yunmu naturally wouldn't speak foolishly. In an instant, the entire area became quiet. As time passed, the battle in the distance became more and more intense. At the start of the battle, Xie Yin and Lan Xiao still had a slight advantage. But as time went on, their decline became more obvious, especially after Lan Xiao was ambushed by Dan Zhong. The two of them were in an absolutely disadvantageous position. If this situation carried on, without any external help, Xie Yin and Lan Xiao would definitely lose. Could it be that he really knew that Pill Puppet would win? Ziyun glanced at Ningyu from the corner of her eyes, feeling extremely shocked in her heart. At the start, when Ningyu said that Pill Puppet would win, Ziyun's reaction was to snort disdainfully and not believe it. But now, the situation was very clear. Without any external help, Dan Zhong would definitely win. Under this kind of situation, Ziyun's view of Ningyu naturally wavered. Looks like I have to be careful in case I get tricked by him. Retracting her gaze, Ziyun secretly became cautious. Before Ningyu appeared in Four Corner City, the immortal crystal vein was divided among the four empires. After Ningyu appeared, he practically used a forceful method to remove the Thousand Leaf Empire's gene family. Not only that, Ningyu even used the hidden pill puppet at the entrance of the immortal crystal vein to deal with Xie Yin and Lan Xiao. Furthermore, Ningyu conveniently dragged her into the water. Ziyun knew that she shouldered a huge responsibility, and she absolutely couldn't fall in Four Corner City. Swish! At this moment, a figure suddenly sped over from the direction of the bronze door. In the blink of an eye, this figure appeared in front of Ningyu. Ning Lu. Without a doubt, this martial artist was Ning Lu, who hurried over. Ningyu, aren't you being too unkind? You didn't even tell me if there was something good. Ning Lu thumped Ningyu's chest and grumbled. Others might not know that I like Dan Qi, but how could you not know? The World Tree had a deadly restraining effect on Danny. The energy contained in Dan Hen's body was also extremely pure. Under such circumstances, Ning Lu definitely liked Dan Xiang and the pleasure of devouring that pure energy. Don't talk big. Take a look at Dan Shi over there and see if there's a way to kill him. Ningyu pointed at Dan Shi, who was fighting with Xie Yin and Lan Chao in the distance, and said in a low voice, "If you have a way, then stay. If you don't, then get the hell out of here." Hearing Ning Yu's words, Ning Lu's gaze shifted to the distant battlefield. Hiss! Ning Lu sucked in a breath of cold air when he saw what it was. Late-stage saint? Ning Lu turned to look at Ning Yu and said, "And it's the kind of Dan Shi that's infinitely close to the pinnacle of the saint realm? You've probably lost your mind by asking me to kill him, right? Why do you have so much to say?" Ning Yu said coldly, "The battle over there is still ongoing. After Dan Shi wins, his strength will drop by many times at the very least. I'm just asking if you have a way to kill him. I don't want to hear anything else. Even if Dan Shi's strength will be affected, he'll still have the battle prowess of an early-stage saint or even a mid-stage saint." At this moment, Ning Lu's expression finally turned solemn, and he said, "To be honest, I'm not his match right now. If you're not his match, then why are you still talking nonsense here? Get the hell out of here." Ning Yu glanced coldly at Ning Lu, then raised his right leg and was about to kick Ning Lu's butt. At the same time, Ning Yu's consciousness surged, and he began to contact the little Qilin in the Tower of Yuzuan. Actually, unless it was absolutely necessary, Ning Yu really didn't want the little Qilin to come out and help, because once the little Qilin came out, it would definitely reveal its true cultivation. At that time, what if Ziyun saw that the little Qilin's cultivation was only at the early stage saint, and she had evil thoughts? Therefore, the best solution was for Ning Lu to take action and kill Dan Shi. "Don't!" Ning Lu hurriedly dodged to the side and dodged Ning Yu's attack. He patted his chest and guaranteed, "If you join forces with me, we can definitely kill that Dan Shi. Sigh, I'd like to join forces with you, but the situation doesn't allow it." Ning Yu sighed. "Do you think there's only one Dan Shi in the immortal crystal vein? There's an early stage Saint Dan Shi in the vein not far from the cave entrance." Ning Lu hurriedly shifted his gaze to the cave entrance. As I thought, Ning Lu's originally solemn expression became even more solemn. After some thought, Ning Lu said solemnly, "If I can increase my strength a little more, I guarantee that I can kill that Dan Shi." With a thought, Ning Yu took out 2 elixirs from his interspatial ring. He had obtained these 2 elixirs from Lu Chuanji, who had descended from a higher plane back in the God Emperor Palace. Logically speaking, 1 elixir could allow Ning Yu to advance from the early stage Sky Supreme Realm to the pinnacle Sky Supreme Realm. But because Ning Yu had a special physique, the Battle God's physique, 1 elixir could only allow Ning Yu to advance from the early stage Sky Supreme Realm to the mid-stage Sky Supreme Realm. Even so, it was undeniable that the energy contained in the elixir was the most terrifying among all the elixirs that Ning Yu had seen. Ning Yu originally wanted to give one of the 2 elixirs to the Dark Emperor, but it was a critical period now, so Ning Yu decided to give both to Ning Lu. Good stuff. Ning Lu's expression changed when he saw the 2 elixirs in Ning Yu's hand. He immediately snatched the elixir and swallowed it. Buzz! Ning Lu's aura grew stronger and stronger as the elixir entered his stomach. His cultivation, which had been stagnant for a long time, was also rapidly rising. At this rate, Ning Lu's cultivation would soar to the late-stage Sky Supreme Realm in a few minutes at most. Ning Lu's cultivation was already at the pinnacle of the mid-stage Sky Supreme Realm, so it was reasonable for him to advance to the late-stage Sky Supreme Realm after swallowing 2 elixirs. This aura... Ziyun was shocked when she sensed the aura exuding from Ning Yu. Ziyun slapped her head and tried hard to recall. Ziyun was certain that she had sensed this aura before, but no matter how hard she tried, she couldn't recall what it was. Bang! Just as Ziyun was trying hard to recall, a muffled sound suddenly came from Ning Lu's body. At this moment, Ning Lu directly broke through his limit and advanced from the pinnacle of the mid-stage Sky Supreme Realm to the late-stage Sky Supreme Realm. Good. After advancing to the late-stage Sky Supreme Realm, Ning Lu clearly sensed that the dark golden branches in his body suddenly expanded and turned into 5 branches. Chapter 1798. Crack! Crack! Ning Lu's cultivation had just reached the late sky supreme realm when the outcome of the battle was already decided. Dan Zhong seized the opportunity and threw 2 punches. One landed on Xie Yan's head, while the other landed on Lan Chao's heart. 2 punches, 2 crisp sounds rang out. At that moment, Xie Yan and Lan Chao both fell to the ground. Ziyun, as long as you help us, we guarantee that we won't let you suffer. Although they fell to the ground, Xie Yan and Lan Chao didn't die immediately. Under their strong will to live, the 2 of them shouted at Ziyun, "We've decided not to take the immortal crystals in the mine. We'll give them all to you, as long as you help us." This, hearing Xie Yan and Lan Chao's words, coupled with Dan Zhong's weakened state, Ziyun was tempted. In the face of such great benefits, Ziyun really wanted to take the risk and kill Dan Zhong. But Ziyun was clear. If she killed Dan Zhong, it would mean that she'd completely offend Ningyu. Offending Ningyu wasn't particularly scary. After all, Ningyu's cultivation was only at the mid-sky supreme realm. Most importantly, Ziyun couldn't see through the qilin on Ningyu's body. Killing Dan Zhong was easy. The difficult part was how to face Ningyu. "It's up to you now." Taking a deep breath, Ziyun didn't seem to hear Xie Yan and Lan Chao's cries for help. She turned to Ningyu and faintly said, "I hope that you can deal with that pellet puppet as soon as possible and send someone to mine the divine crystal vein with me." "No problem." Ningyu smiled slightly and immediately leaped toward the entrance of the mineral vein. Ning Lu didn't stay idle when he saw Ningyu charge out. In fact, Ning Lu's speed was much faster than Ningyu's, and he arrived at the entrance of the mineral vein before Ningyu. Puffed, puffed. The moment Ningyu reached the mine's entrance, Xie Yan and Lan Chao were killed by Dan Zhong. Retreat. Originally, Ning Lu wanted to attack immediately, but when he saw Dan Zhong's condition, he immediately chose to retreat. There was no other reason. Not only had Dan Shi killed Xie Yan and Lan Chao, but he had also used a secret technique to devour them. At this moment, Dan Shi's strength was not at the early stage of the Sage Realm as he had guessed, but at the late stage of the Sage Realm. With Ning Lu's current battle prowess, he could fight against an early-stage Sage or even a mid-stage Sage Dan Jin. It was even possible for him to use the characteristics of the World Tree to kill Dan Shi, who was in the middle stage of the Sage Realm. But Ning Lu knew his limits. He could kill an intermediate Sage Dan Jin, but that didn't mean he could kill an advanced Sage Dan Jin. Retreating at this time was the wisest choice. "Since you're here, then stay." Before Ning Lu could take a few steps back, the late-stage Saint Dan Jin at the entrance of the mine waved his hand and said indifferently, "You have an aura that makes my heart palpitate. I need to study it carefully." His voice fell. A terrifying suction force emerged from the body of the late-stage Saint Dan Jin and instantly came to Ning Lu's side. Facing such a terrifying suction force, even if Ning Lu resisted with all his might, he wouldn't be able to resist it. He's actually so strong. When Ziyun saw the aura emitted from the body of the late-stage Saint Dan Jin, she became serious. Although Ziyun was very confident in her strength and thought that she could sweep away all the martial artists below the peak Sage Realm. But now, Ziyun knew that she was wrong, and she was very wrong. Normally, the strength of the Dan Jin in front of her was far above hers. I wonder if Ningyu has a way to deal with this Dan Jin. Thinking of this, Ziyun couldn't help but glance at Ningyu, who was about 10 meters away from the entrance of the mine. What should I do? Even though Ningyu was very anxious, his expression was still very calm. Everything was beyond his expectations and out of his control. Logically speaking, in the face of such a situation, unless a late-stage sage joined the battle, the result was already determined. However, Ningyu wasn't someone who would give up so easily. His eyes turned as he secretly thought of a countermeasure. "You come over too." Just as Ningyu was letting his imagination run wild, the late-stage sage Dan Jin waved his hand at him and said, "I've met 2 interesting little fellows at once. I didn't come in vain this time. Hearing the words of the late-stage sage Danjin, Ningyu pretended to be calm and said, "If I go over just because you ask me to, wouldn't I lose face?" Ha ha ha. Before the late-stage sage Danjin could reply, a loud laughter came from the mine. Rustle. Immediately after, a figure slowly walked out of the mine. As expected, he still came out. Ningyu did not turn around, but stared into the eyes of the late-stage sage Danjin, trying to find some clues from his eyes. This time, Ningyu had made the right bet. From the reaction of the late-stage sage Danjin, you could basically confirm that he had an extremely close relationship with the early-stage sage Danjin that came out of the mine. Since they had a close relationship, everything had become simple. Who do you think you want face? The figure that walked out of the cave was not very tall and had an early-stage sage cultivation. He went straight to stand beside Ningyu and said disdainfully, "If Guyan didn't think you were interesting, do you think you would be able to live until now?" Ningyu knew that his chance had come. He gently turned around and looked at the early-stage sage Danjin, saying similarly disdainfully, "An early-stage sage cultivation dares to shout in front of me. Do you believe that I can finish you off in 3 moves?" Ha ha ha. The early-stage sage Danjin seemed to have heard the funniest joke in the world. He first threw his head back and laughed wildly. Then his voice turned cold, and he said gloomily, "I can kill a small shrimp like you in 1 move. Aren't you afraid of getting your tongue cut off by the wind?" Ningyu said coldly, "If you're not convinced, let's make a bet." "Ha, what kind of bet?" The early-stage sage Danjin was so angry that he laughed and said, "Don't say that I, serene, am bullying you. I can let you have 2 moves first." "Okay, this is what you said. You can't go back on your word." Seeing that his plan had succeeded, Ningyu said in a clear voice, "If I can defeat you in 3 moves, then Gu Yin will release my friend. If I can't defeat you in 3 moves, then you can do whatever you want of me." Ningyu did not say this to Shirong, but to Gu Yin. Although Shirong's status might be higher than Gu Yan's, Gu Yin was stronger. Ningyu did not want to go back on his word and not let him go after going through so much trouble to win. "You're really an interesting little guy." Gu Yin looked at Ningyu with interest and said, "Since you dare to make this bet with Shirong, it means that you are very confident that you can win." Chapter 1799. "Guyan, what do you mean? Do you think I'm no match for this guy?" Shirong knitted his brows with unhappiness on his face. "His cultivation is in the middle phase heavenly sovereign realm, while my cultivation is in the initial phase saint realm. If I can't kill him in 3 moves, then I would have lived my life in vain." "That's not what I meant. I just wanted to say." Guyan shook his head to show that he wasn't looking down on Shirong. Shirong didn't listen to Gu Yan's explanation at all. He waved his hand and said in a deep voice, "You guys take a few steps back. I want to exchange pointers with this guy. I want him to know that there's always someone better out there. Spar is fine, but you must use your full strength." Guyan knew that he couldn't dissuade Shirong, so he lowered his voice. "Also, don't kill Ningyu if you can. Keep him alive. I still need him for the time being." As he spoke, Guyan glanced at Ziyun from the corner of his eyes. Ziyun was a late-phase saint, so her combat strength wasn't weak at all. Although Guyan was confident that he could defeat Ziyun, there was nothing he could do if Ziyun wanted to escape. Guyan was a pellet puppet, a combination of Yuan-Chi pellet and soul pellet. His identity was bound to be sensitive. It didn't matter if Ziyun left, but if Ziyun spread the news that he was in Four Corner City, then he'd be doomed. After all, a pellet puppet was a good thing for human cultivators. "I'm not a 3-year-old kid. I'm clear about this." Shirong's tone seemed to be extremely impatient. He turned around to look at Ningyu and said indifferently, "The agreement of 3 moves can begin now. All of you step back." Ningyu didn't answer Shirong immediately. Instead, he said to Tianji Oldman and Yun Mu, "Without my permission, no one is allowed to come near here." "Russell." Tianji Oldman and the rest didn't hesitate and immediately retreated. Aside from Tianji Oldman and Yun Mu, even Ziyun couldn't help taking a few steps back. "Take this." Seeing that Ningyu didn't answer him, Shirong's face turned cold and he instantly dashed out. "Chi! Chi! Chi!" Shirong's speed was too fast, causing friction with the air. Wait. Seeing that Shirong was about to arrive before him, Ningyu revealed a mocking expression and said in disdain, "An initial phase Saint Pellet puppet, like you want to spar with a middle phase heavenly sovereign like me, and you dare to go back on your words?" Whoosh! Shirong instantly stopped when he heard Ning use mocking words. He clenched his fists tightly and said coldly, "When did I go back on my word? I seem to remember a certain Dan Zhong saying that he would give me 2 moves." Ningyu said exaggeratedly, "Don't tell me you know you're no match for me and want to renege on your promise." Humph. So what if I let you make 2 moves first? Shirong's chest heaved up and down, and he said with a cold snort, "I'll stand where I am right now and not move. I'll take 2 moves from you." Shirong appeared to be very angry. Actually, it wasn't surprising. He was an initial phase Saint Realm Dan Chi. So how could he live after being ridiculed by a middle phase heavenly sovereign? Even if it was for his face, Shirong had to fulfill his promise and let Ningyu take 2 moves first. Ningyu's plan seemed to have succeeded as an arc rose on the corner of his lips. In the next moment, Ningyu suddenly stomped his feet on the ground and charged out like an afterimage. Ningyu's speed wasn't very fast. At the very least, he was much slower than Shirong. Overestimating yourself. Looking at the approaching Ningyu, Shirong sneered, "I will let you know what is called, however." Before Ningyu could reach Shirong, before Shirong could finish his sneer, there was a sudden change. Guyan pushed Ningyu away and leaped out. In almost an instant, Guyan appeared in front of Ningyu, and his fist carried a violent Yuan Qi gale as it fiercely smashed towards Ningyu's chest. "Guyan, what are you doing?" Seeing Guyan suddenly attack Ningyu with all his strength, Shirong was very angry. To be honest, Shirong was very angry that Guyan attacked Ningyu. Previously, Guyan didn't allow him to fight with Ningyu. Now, he even wanted to get involved. Did he really think that he wasn't a match for Ningyu? I will explain to you later. Stay where you are and don't go anywhere. Although Guyan's words were directed at Shirong, he didn't slow down at all. Instead, he sped up. "You'd better give me a reasonable explanation." Shirong was so angry that his nose was crooked. The more anxious Guyan was, the more he looked down on him. Shirong had a very big characteristic. The more others looked down on him, the more he wanted to prove himself. In this case, the best way was to control Ningyu, whose cultivation was higher than Ningyu's. Therefore, Shirong slowly moved toward Ningyu's side. "Ningyu, I already knew you had a problem. Show me your trump card, or you won't have a chance." Although it seemed that Guyan had an absolute advantage. However, even a lion would use all its strength to catch a rabbit, not to mention a mysterious person like Ningyu. "As you wish." Looking at Guyan, who was only a few feet away from him, Ningyu's mouth curled up into a smile again. Then, he tore open the void and entered it. "Humph, you still want to escape in front of me? I think you have lost your mind." Upon seeing Ningyu disappear into thin air, Guyan coldly snorted. Then, he viciously threw a punch in the direction Ningyu had disappeared. Rumble. The next moment, an earth-shattering sound rang out. The space in the entire area became restless. Crack, crack. The sound of the space breaking kept ringing out. "It's over." Far away, Yunmu's mouth was wide open and his face was filled with disappointment. In Yunmu's opinion, Ningyu would definitely die. Even Ziyun might not be able to withstand Guyan's all-out attack, not to mention Ningyu. Let's wait and see. Although Tianji Lauren's face was grave, he still had a trace of hope. Because Tianji Lauren knew that Ningyu would never do something he wasn't confident in. Tianji Lauren believed that Ningyu definitely had a backup plan. In my opinion, we'd better leave as soon as possible while that Dan Yin isn't paying attention to us. At this moment, Yunmu even had the thought of leaving. Although the current situation wasn't very clear, it wasn't much different. Unless that Qilin on Ningyu. That's right, Qilin. Thinking of this, Yunmu's heart was filled with hope again. Don't think too much. The Qilin on Ningyu's body is only at the initial sage realm. Tianji Lauren seemed to have guessed Yunmu's thoughts. He shook his head and said, "An initial Sage Realm Qilin can only withstand one attack from Guyan. It definitely won't be able to withstand the second attack." Pucci. As if to prove Tianji Lauren's words, the aftermath of the explosion in the distance suddenly dissipated. A Qilin stood where Ningyu had been, and there was even a drop of blood hanging from the corner of its mouth. Chapter 1800. Elder Tianji, since Qilin isn't Guyan's match, why don't we leave? Yin Mu couldn't understand. Qilin wasn't Guyan's match, and Ningyu was only an intermediate heavenly supreme. Under such circumstances, staying here was no different from sending them to their deaths. I have to tell you the truth. Elder Tianji took a deep breath and explained, "With our current strength, we can't leave." Yin Mu was slightly stunned by Elder Tianji's explanation, but he immediately understood. It wasn't that Elder Tianji didn't want to leave, but that he couldn't. Guyan was a late saint, and his combat strength was extremely terrifying. Unless someone completely stopped him, no one would be able to leave. I knew you had a trump card, but I didn't expect it to be Qilin. Guyan looked at Ningyu with a slightly relieved expression and said, "Fortunately, this Qilin is only at the early stage of the Sage Realm. If he was at the middle stage of the Sage Realm, I really wouldn't be his match." "You think you could defeat me?" The little Qilin licked the blood at the corner of its mouth and said in a deep voice, "Danshi is a Danshi. Even if you're a late saint, you still have a fatal weakness." "That's right. Danshi does have a fatal weakness, but with your current strength, you can't defeat me even if you know my weakness." Guyan curled his lips and revealed a disdainful expression. "The ignorant are fearless." At this moment, Ningyu, who was on the little Qilin's back, spoke. The corner of Ningyu's mouth rose, and he smiled sinisterly. "If you're not convinced, you can continue to attack. Does he still have a trump card?" Guyan secretly became cautious. Without absolute confidence, Guyan wouldn't continue to attack. His punch was blocked by the Qilin on Ningyu's back. Who knew if a stronger demonic beast would come out to block the next attack for Ningyu? For safety's sake, Guyan decided to wait and see. He would use Ning Lu to threaten Ningyu. Thinking of this, Guyan leaped up and quickly flew in the direction of Ning Lu. Swish! However, Guyan suddenly stopped after flying for a short while. Ka! Guyan clenched his fists tightly as he stared at the two figures not far away. "You really infuriate me." Due to his anger, the veins on Guyan's body bulged. He was on the verge of exploding. The reason why Guyan would be so angry was because Shi Rong didn't listen to his advice and attacked Ning Lu without permission. It's fine that you made a move, but in the end, you actually failed to subdue Ning Lu and were subdued by Ningyu. Impede. Now, Shi Rong had completely become a hindrance to Guyan. As long as Guyan dared to attack Ningyu and Little Qilin, then Ning Lu would definitely attack Shi Rong. You win. Guyan knew that since things had come to this, it was unrealistic for him to solve it by force. The only thing he could do now was to sacrifice some benefits and rescue Shi Rong. "I can let you go, but the condition is that you have to get that child to release Shi Rong." Taking a deep breath, Guyan said to Ningyu, "From now on, we will mind our own business." "Do you think I'm an idiot?" Ningyu pointed at his own nose and said, "It's not impossible for me to release Shi Rong, but you have to mine the immortal crystal mine for me and exchange it for Shi Rong. Don't go too far." Guyan had never been bullied like this before. His chest heaved up and down, and he said angrily, "If you push me too far, none of you will leave today." Ah! As soon as Guyan's voice fell, a scream like that of a pig being slaughtered came from afar. Without a doubt, the scream came from the early stage sage Shi Rong. Ning Lu suddenly slapped Shi Rong's back with his right hand. At the same time, a dark golden branch quietly entered Shi Rong's body and madly absorbed the energy in Shi Rong's body. The energy in Shi Rong's body entered Ning Lu's body through the dark golden branch. As the energy continued to increase, Ning Lu's strength was slowly increasing. If I could devour him completely, I can even advance to the peak of Sky Supreme. Ning Lu showed a satisfied expression. He first swallowed 2 elixirs and raised his cultivation from the middle stage Sky Supreme to the late stage Sky Supreme. Now he caught the early stage Sage Shurong. If he could devour Shurong, he would have a high chance of advancing to the peak of Sky Supreme. Ning Lu, a late stage Sky Supreme, could use the advantage of the World Tree to defeat Dan Ming, an early stage Sage. One can imagine, once he advanced to the peak of Sky Supreme, then he could use the advantage of the World Tree to defeat Dan Ming, an early stage Sage. A virtuous cycle. This was a virtuous cycle that could continue to develop. Change the conditions. Guyan's face was so gloomy that he wanted to kill someone. A cold voice came from his mouth. As long as it's not the immortal crystal mine, everything else is negotiable. In fact, it wasn't that Guyan didn't want to mine the immortal crystal mine. It was that it took time to mine the immortal crystal mine. In the distance, Ning Lu was devouring Shurong. With every minute he wasted, Shurong would be in more danger. Guyan wanted to save Shurong, but he also wanted to preserve Shurong's fighting strength. This is troublesome. Ningyu rested his chin on his hands and looked like he was thinking. After a while, Ningyu said, "As a late-stage Sage Dan Ming, you must have a lot of pure energy and pure soul power. How about this? As long as you take out pure energy and pure soul power to help little Kylan advance to the middle stage Sage, let my soul power increase to the ninth stage. At the peak, I will ask Ning Lu to release Shurong." You. Hearing Ning Yu's conditions, Guyan almost died of anger. Ning Yu's soul power was at the early stage Sage. It was not particularly difficult for him to take out pure soul power to help him increase his soul power to the peak of 9th stage. What was difficult was to help that Kylan advance to the middle stage Sage. Not to mention how much energy it would take to help an early stage Kylan advance to the middle stage Sage. Even if he could help Kylan advance to the middle stage Sage, the next step would not be easy, because Guyan did not have absolute confidence that he could defeat a middle stage Sage. Besides, there was still a late stage Sage warrior eyeing him covetously. Moreover, in front of the City Lord's mansion of Four Corner City, there were 2 late stage Sage warriors fighting fiercely. It was better to be safe than sorry. If so many people joined forces, wouldn't he be dead meat? Let me change my conditions. Guyan resisted the urge to explode and said, "I can give you enlightenment and let your cultivation increase from the middle stage Sky Supreme to the peak Sky Supreme." "No way." Ningyu waved his hand and said loudly, "I have given you 2 choices. Don't push your luck." Chapter 1801. Crack, crack, crack. Due to his anger, Guyan's bones made cracking sounds. Ever since he had descended to the celestial spirit realm, Guyan had never been so angry. He had hidden at the entrance of the celestial crystal vein with the intention of using his powerful strength to kill and devour all those who wanted a share of the loot. Originally, the plan was very successful. He had also successfully killed 2 late-stage Sage warriors and devoured them both, increasing his strength a little. However, because of Shurong's stupidity, everything had turned around. Now, he was a fish on the chopping block while others were on the chopping block. Just as Guyan was pondering this, Shurong let out another hysterical roar in the distance. In just a minute, Shurong's aura was already on the verge of Sage and Sky Supreme. At this rate, Shurong's cultivation would drop to peak Sky Supreme in at most a minute. "Okay, I'm willing to give you energy and soul power." Guyan gritted his teeth and said helplessly, "But you have to make that kid stop devouring Shurong." "Sorry, I choose to refuse." Ningyu shrugged, not planning to give Guyan any face. "Stop devouring? What a joke." For a late-stage Sage elixir puppet like Guyan, he could not give him any chance. Otherwise, if he approached Ning Lu quickly and subdued him, all his previous efforts would be in vain. Therefore, the best solution was for Ning Lu to continue devouring Shurong and force Guyan not to act rashly. "Here you go." Guyan wanted to kill Ningyu immediately, but he knew that he could only choose to hand over the pure energy and soul power. Swoosh! Swoosh! As soon as he finished speaking, Gu Yin flicked his wrist, and two rays of cold light flew towards Ningyu and the little Kylan. Stop! Ningyu was not stupid enough to catch the pure energy and soul power directly. He pushed out his right hand and forced the two beams of cold light to stop in midair. Is there a problem? After forcing the cold light to stop, Ningyu turned to little Kylan and asked, "Can this energy help you advance to the mid-stage sage?" Ningyu was concerned about two things. Was it safe? Could the energy allow little Kylan to advance to the middle stage of the Saint Realm? Safety was of utmost importance. If it wasn't safe, what was the point of having more energy? So, as long as little Kylan said that the energy wasn't safe, Ningyu would definitely retreat without a second thought. No problem. After observing for a while, the little Kylan nodded and said, "This energy can help me advance to the mid-stage sage realm." Whoosh! Whoosh! Hearing little Qilint's affirmative reply, Ningyu revealed a relieved expression. Since it was confirmed that there was no problem, Ningyu did not argue anymore. He threw the energy to little Kylan. As for himself, he received the pure soul force. After obtaining the pure soul power, Ningyu swallowed it without any hesitation. The soul force flowed down Ningyu's throat and circulated in Ningyu's body before entering Ningyu's consciousness. In Ningyu's consciousness, the initial 9th grade soul force surged and crazily swallowed the pure soul power. As expected of a late-stage sage elixir puppet, as Ningyu swallowed the soul force, he thought to himself, "If I can swallow Gu Yin, I wonder if my soul force can break through the limits of 9th grade and advance to the realm of a 10th grade elixir emperor." A 9th grade soul force was considered very strong in the immortal spirit realm. But Ningyu knew that as more and more experts descended from the higher planes, a 9th grade soul force was no longer enough. But Ningyu knew his limits. It was enough to raise his soul force to the peak of 9th grade today. As for the rest, there was no need to rush. Bang bang. While Ningyu was swallowing the pure soul power, on the other side, the little Qilint's body was making banging sounds. Moreover, the aura of the little Qilin was growing at a visible speed. Originally, the little Qilint's cultivation was at the peak of the early stage sage, not too far from the mid-stage sage. Now that it had so much pure energy, and Ningyu had secretly given it a small piece of immortal ascension grass, its strength was improving rapidly. It can't go on like this. It won't be long before this Qilin advances to the mid-stage sage. Gu Yin had been paying attention to the changes in the little Qilin. As for Ningyu, Gu Yin didn't want to pay too much attention to him. After all, even if Ningyu's soul force increased to the peak of 9th grade, his strength wouldn't increase by much. Once the little Qilin's cultivation reached the mid-stage sage, he would be facing a huge disaster. With a thought, Gu Yin turned his attention to Ziyun. "How about we make a deal?" Gu Yin didn't beat around the bush. The first thing he said was to cooperate with Ziyun. "If you rescue Shirong from me, I'll give you all the celestial crystals in the celestial crystal mineral vein." Whoosh! It had to be said that Gu Yan's words were very tempting to Ziyun. Ziyun was very tempted by the celestial crystals in the celestial crystal mineral vein, because as Ningyu and the little Qilin's strength increased, Ziyun's uneasiness became more and more serious. She could still get 50% of the celestial crystals now. When the little Qilin advances to the mid-stage sage, would she still get 50%? If Ningyu went back on his words, she wouldn't even get 10% of the celestial crystals. But Ziyun wasn't a reckless person. Although it was dangerous to cooperate with Ningyu, she knew Ningyu better than Gu Yin. At least, she knew him better than Gu Yin. If she cooperated with Gu Yin, she might be walking into a tiger's mouth. "I won't do it without benefits." Ziyun went straight to the point. "Unless you give me a large amount of pure energy or a large amount of pure spiritual force, I will not take the risk to save Shirong for you. I've handed the energy and soul force to Ningyu. I don't have any energy or soul force with me right now." Gu Yin shook his head. "But you don't have to worry. I'll make a heavenly oath. As long as you can rescue Shirong, I guarantee that I'll give you a large amount of energy and soul force. Getting something without risking anything. Xian curled her lips and didn't speak anymore. She originally thought that Gu Yin would pay a price, but in the end, he was trying to get something without risking anything. As for the heavenly oath, Ziyun didn't believe in it. Could Dan Shi's heavenly oath be trusted? I can tell you a secret. Gu Yin clenched his teeth and said, there's a teleportation array in the celestial crystal mineral vein that can teleport us to the Pill Emperor's city. Ziyun was stunned. There's a teleportation array in the celestial crystal mineral vein, and it can teleport us to the Pill Emperor's city. This news made Ziyun extremely shocked. Ziyun thought more about it. Chapter 1802. As long as you rescue Shirong, I'll give you the celestial crystal vein and tell you how to activate the teleportation formation inside the celestial crystal vein so that you can directly reach Alchemy Emperor's city. Seeing Ziyun's hesitation, Gu Yin instantly felt that there was hope. He gritted his teeth as if he had made up his mind. Apart from these, I will also give you that Qilin. You're giving Qilin to me? How? Ziyun would not easily believe Gu Yan's words. Although that Qilin was now at the early stage of the Sage Realm, who knew when it would advance to the middle stage of the Sage Realm? Once that Qilin advanced to the Sage Intermediate stage, everything would be set in stone. After all, a mid-stage Sage Qilin could easily defeat a late-stage Sage Dan Shi. Help me save Shirong, and I'll immediately make a move against Qilin and capture him with lightning speed. Gu Yin said slowly, think about it. You are now at the late stage of the Sage Realm. If you can control a Qilin at the early stage of the Sage Realm, will you still be afraid that I will turn against you? You've said so much, but there's nothing practical at all. You still want to gain something without risking anything. Ziyun shook her head and said, if your sincerity is only this much, then I can only apologize to you. What on earth do you want? Seeing that Ziyun didn't fall for it, Gu Yin finally couldn't endure it any longer and coldly said, I can't give you energy and soul force right now. The only sincerity I can show is to tell you that there's a teleportation array in the immortal crystal vein. Bang! At this moment, a muffled sound came from afar. Hearing this sound, Gu Yan's pupils shrank and his body couldn't help but tremble. The speed at which the little Qilin absorbed the pure energy was far beyond Gu Yan's estimation. In Gu Yan's opinion, no matter how fast the small Qilin could absorb energy, it would take 10 minutes or even half an hour for it to reach the middle stage of Sage Realm. However, after seeing the little Qilin's condition, Gu Yin knew that he was wrong. At this rate, it would take at most 5 minutes for the little Qilin to break through its limit and advance to the middle stage of the Saint Realm. I can promise you 3 things unconditionally. In desperation, Gu Yin had a compromise. It could be seen that Gu Yin valued Shirong very much. He would never allow Shirong to make any mistakes. Promise me 3 things unconditionally? Hearing Gu Yan's words, Ziyun was stunned. Ziyun thought that Gu Yin would take a step back, but she never imagined that Gu Yin would make such a huge concession. By agreeing to 3 things unconditionally, Gu Yin basically put his life in her hands. Would Gu Yin be so stupid? The answer was obviously no. I can open my mind and let you leave a trace of your soul power in my sea of consciousness. While Gu Yin was paying attention to the little Qilin's aura, he said to Ziyun, as long as you leave your soul force in my sea of consciousness, won't I be at your mercy? All right, I'll pretend to attack you first, and then leave my soul force in your sea of consciousness. Ziyun seemed to have made up her mind as she heavily nodded her head. Shortly after, her figure flashed as she charged towards Gu Yin. In order to not arouse the suspicions of Ningyu and the old man of heavenly secrets, Ziyun shouted as they advanced. Gu Yin, how dare you sneak attack me? Voila! Ziyun's words immediately attracted the attention of Old Prophet and the rest. Apart from Tianji Lauren, Yin Mu, and the others, even Ning Lu was slightly attracted. Rumble. As the saying goes, if you want to put on a show, you must go all the way. Ziyun waved her hands continuously and displayed her trump card. At this moment, the battle strength that Ziyun displayed was comparable to that of a late-stage sage martial artist. Ziyun's strength is actually so powerful. Not far away, Ning Lu's face turned solemn as he murmured, "In terms of pure battle strength, and Halping is not a match for Ziyun. In this delicate situation, if she attacks Gu Yan, it might be no." However, before Ning Lu could finish his murmur, his expression changed greatly. He thought of a possibility, an extremely terrifying possibility. Ziyun might have reached some kind of agreement with Gu Yan. The more Ning Lu thought about it, the more he felt that it was possible. However, Ning Lu could only be anxious at this moment, because no matter how he tried to contact Ning Yu, he couldn't get in touch with him. Ning Yu was in an ethereal state as he was devouring the pure soul power. At this moment, unless Ning Yu broke through his limit and completed the transformation of his soul power, Ning Lu would definitely not be able to contact him. Since he couldn't get in touch with Ning Yu, Ning Lu changed his strategy and tried to contact the little Kylan. However, the result was not satisfactory. The little Kylan's condition was not much different from that of Ning Yu. It could be seen that the little Kylan had made a lot of preparations in order to break through to the intermediate stage sage realm. Ning Lu didn't look very good as he couldn't get in touch with Ning Yu or the little Kylan. If his guess was correct, the consequences would be unimaginable. And Halping. Oh, right. Contact Halping and ask him to come here. Ning Lu had no choice but to try to get in touch with Halping, who was fighting with Jean Fei. If Halping came, Jean Fei would also come. However, Ning Lu had no other choice in the current situation. It was better to be safe than sorry. If Ziyun really joined forces with Gu Yan, then they would all die here today. Ning Lu was still very anxious, even though he had contacted Halping. If they dare to join forces, I will be the first to kill Shi Rong. Ning Lu turned his head to look at Shi Rong, who was being devoured by him. He increased the devouring power again and devoured Shi Rong even more crazily. Puff! Shi Rong, who was originally in a weakened state, naturally couldn't face such a powerful devouring power. Fresh blood spurted out from Shi Rong's mouth. His face turned deathly pale, without any color. Going. Everything that happened here naturally fell into Gu Yan's eyes. However, Gu Yan could only pretend that he didn't see it because he was in the middle of a transaction with Ziyun. He opened up his mind and let Ziyun's soul force enter his sea of consciousness. Relatively speaking, this was the most important thing. There couldn't be any slightest mistake. All of you go over. Gu Yan looked very calm on the surface, but in reality, he was extremely nervous in his heart. He mobilized all the soul force in his body and hid it all around his sea of consciousness. As long as Ziyun's soul force entered his sea of consciousness, he would mobilize his own soul force and prepare to give Ziyun a ruthless blow. Of course, Gu Yan wouldn't be so foolish to make a move now. At the very least, he had to wait until Ziyun rescued Shi Rong. At that time, he would execute a secret technique and use the soul force that Ziyun left in his mind to control Ziyun and force Ziyun to hand over Shi Rong. The technique that Gu Yan grasped was actually not much different from the one that Ning Yu grasped. Ning Yu grasped the soul attraction technique. He could use soul force to attack a martial artist's body from a distance. However, the soul attraction technique had a lot of restrictions. There were many things that needed to be prepared. Chapter 1803. Huff. After injecting her soul force into Gu Yan's sea of consciousness, Ziyun couldn't help letting out a long breath. Originally, Ziyun thought that Gu Yan wouldn't let her leave her soul force in his sea of consciousness so easily and that it would definitely take some time. However, Gu Yan's reaction was out of her expectations. No matter what, she had Gu Yan's weakness in her hands. Even if Gu Yan was prepared, he was still bound to be restricted by her. Rumble. Start from the beginning. While Gu Yan and Ziyun were discussing, they were still attacking with all their might. On the surface, their attacks seemed to be very powerful. Even Tianji Laoren and Yunmu were fooled and thought that Ziyun had changed. Boom! At that critical moment, Guyen grabbed onto a flaw in Ziyun's defense and abruptly threw out a punch. His punch landed right on Ziyun's back. A huge force came from her back, causing Ziyun to stagger and fly into the distance. Without a doubt, the direction where Ziyun flew out was where Ning Lu and Shirong were. Shit, not far away. Tianji Lauren's face changed when he saw the direction where Ziyun flew out. He felt that something was wrong. What's going on? Yin Mu was still frowning. He didn't find anything wrong. Ziyun might have joined hands with Guyen. We have to get Ning Lu to move as soon as possible. Tianji Lauren's face was extremely grave as he coldly said, "Stay where you are and don't move. I'll think of a way to stop Ziyun." Are you sure you're not joking? Hearing Tianji Lauren's words and seeing the determination on Tianji Lauren's face, Yin Mu's mouth was slightly opened and his face was filled with confusion. Let's not talk about whether they joined hands or not. Even if they did, you wouldn't be able to help. Fool! I already said that I'm going to think of a way and not take the initiative to attack Ziyun. Tianji Lauren fiercely stared at Yin Mu. Then his figure flashed and flew in another direction. Initially, Yin Mu was a little puzzled when he saw Tianji Lauren's actions. He didn't know why Tianji Lauren was going in the opposite direction from Ziyun. But soon, Yin Mu understood Tianji Lauren's thoughts. If Ziyun really joined forces with Guyen, then her original intention must be for the immortal crystals in the immortal crystal vein. If old man Tianji could take action and gain control of the immortal crystal vein, Ziyun would definitely not dare to make a move against Ning Lu. You don't have to blindly participate in this. There was always a gap between ideals and reality, and this chasm was something that the Elder of Heavenly Secrets could not bridge. At the very least, with his current strength, he could not bridge it. Now that they had shed all pretenses of cordiality and confirmed that the little Kylin and Ning Yu were at the critical stage of their breakthrough, Guyen could show his foxtail without any scruples. Guyen flicked his sleeves and a cold light flew out, flinging Tianji Lauren back. Meanwhile, Guyen shifted his gaze to Ning Lu and Shirong. A cold expression appeared on his face. Fortunately, there's an idiot who's willing to help. Guyen felt lucky. If he made a move himself, Ning Lu would definitely not say a word and directly kill Shirong. Ziyun was different. If Ziyun made a move, Ning Lu wouldn't kill Shirong with lightning speed. As long as Shirong was fine, he could slowly deal with Ziyun and the rest. Naturally, Guyen had his own plans. He could put Ziyun aside for now. Most importantly, he had to capture the little Kylin and Ning Yu. Comparatively speaking, Ning Yu and the little Kylin were the biggest variables, and they were the ones that Guyen was worried about. No matter how strong Ziyun was, she wouldn't be able to escape from his palm. Do you really want to do this? Looking at Ziyun, who was constantly approaching him, Ning Lu grabbed Shirong and quickly retreated. I have no other choice. Ziyun's expression was indifferent. No one could tell if she was happy or angry. You have to think of the consequences. Ning Lu clenched his teeth and continued. When I'm pushed to the limit, I will immediately kill Shirong. Kill Shirong? It's best that you kill him. That way, it'll be better for everyone. The corner of Yun's lips rose as she coldly said, I'll tell you the truth. The reason why I joined forces with Guyen was to let you kill Shirong. Why do you have to do this? Ning Lu's face was cold, so dark that it was terrifying. Ning Lu couldn't understand what benefit Ziyun would get if Shirong was killed. Why do you have to do this? I'm afraid that you've lost your mind, right? Facing Ning Lu's question, Ziyun did not directly explain. Instead, she asked, who doesn't want to monopolize the immortal crystals in the immortal crystal vein? Do you think that I want to share it with you? Don't be naive. If you kill Shirong, Guyen will fight you with his life. At that time, when two tigers fight, one will definitely be injured. I could just sit on a mountain and watch them fight. How ruthless! Ning Lu's heart skipped a beat. It was said that a woman's heart was the most vicious. However, Ning Lu was shocked that Ziyun, who usually didn't speak much, could be so vicious. But being shocked was just being shocked. Ning Lu knew that he couldn't fall for Ziyun's trick. Kill Shirong? At least before the little Kylin reached the intermediate saint realm, he absolutely couldn't do that. Otherwise, they would be in a situation of no return. Guyen, if you continue like this, don't blame me for being impolite. Although he didn't dare to kill Shirong, it wouldn't be a problem to use Shirong to threaten Guyen. After all, judging from Ziyun's attitude, she wanted to use him to kill Shirong. This situation gave Ning Lu the capital to resist. Ziyun, what the hell are you doing? With the distance between you and Shirong, you can easily save him. Ning Lu's words naturally fell into Guyan's ears. Guyan had no choice but to transmit his voice to Ziyun. Don't forget about our deal. Don't worry. Since I promised you, I will definitely help you save Shirong. Ziyun rolled her eyes and transmitted her voice as well. Ning Lu's cultivation is in the late heavenly supreme realm. He's extremely powerful. I'm afraid that if I act rashly, I will arouse his resentment. At that time, it won't be worth it if I kill Shirong. I don't care. You have to save Shirong within a minute. Guyan was on the verge of exploding, inviting a wolf into the house. He originally thought that Ziyun's intervention could make things simpler. Who knew that it would become more and more complicated? Now, it seemed that Ziyun wasn't a fool. Offending Ningyu now was the most unwise choice. Therefore, Ziyun decided to confront Ning Lu first. If she could force Ning Lu to kill Shirong, everything would be fine. But if Ning Lu didn't fall for it, it wouldn't be a loss to her. At worst, she could turn to Ningyu and fight Guyan together with Ningyu. Boom! While the three parties were in a deadlock, an earth-shattering explosion suddenly resounded. Hearing the explosion, everyone shifted their gazes and looked in that direction. Hiss! Chapter 1804. Boom! Along with the earth-shattering sound, a terrifying aura soared into the sky. Middle stage Sage Realm. At this moment, the little Kylan's cultivation had reached the middle stage Sage Realm. If it had only reached the middle stage Sage Realm, Ziyun and the rest wouldn't be so shocked. What shocked them, what made them suck in a cold breath, was the aura that the little Qilin displayed. It was infinitely close to the peak of the Sage Realm. With the cultivation of middle stage Sage Realm, its aura was infinitely close to the peak of the Sage Realm. Such an incredible thing could only happen to an ancient divine beast. Bang! As soon as the little Kylan's aura stabilized, Ningyu, who was next to it, poured out his soul power and formed a soul protection shield around him. Peak Grade 9. After devouring the pure soul power provided by Guyan, the strength of Ningyu's soul power directly increased from initial Grade 9 to peak Grade 9. Of course, the strength of Ningyu's soul power had only reached the stage of liquefying qi. There was still a long way to go before he could liquefy Dan. However, it was not easy to increase the strength of his soul power to liquefy qi at this age. It was conceivable that when Ningyu's age was the same as before his rebirth, his soul power would at least be able to break through the Dan Emperor realm, or even reach Grade 10 Pill Emperor realm. Hurry up and save Guyan, or I'll teach you a lesson. The improvement of Ningyu's soul power did not make Guyan too anxious, but the advancement of the little Kylan to the middle stage Sage realm made Guyan panic. Guyan knew that with his current mental state, he was definitely not a match for the little Kylan. The only thing he could do now was to let Ziyun save Shirong as soon as possible, and then he could use his secret technique to leave. Otherwise, he would definitely die here today. In order to save Shirong, Guyan used his secret technique to control Ziyun's soul power. Puff! Just when Guyan was controlling his soul power, Ziyun spurted out a mouthful of blood. Her face was filled with confusion. Ziyun knew that Guyan had a trump card, but she did not expect it to be so terrifying. Come back. In desperation, Ziyun continuously used her secret technique to retrieve the soul power in Guyan's sea of consciousness. Unfortunately, no matter how hard she tried, she could not retrieve her soul power. Puff, puff, poochie. Since she couldn't retract her soul force, Ziyun could only forcefully confront Guyan. However, Guyan held the absolute advantage. Therefore, Ziyun could only retreat step by step as she vomited blood. I'll give you one last chance. Save Shirong in 3 seconds, or I'll kill you. Seeing the little Kylan, who was about to consolidate its cultivation, Gu Yin shouted immediately, "Think about what you should do." "Sorry, I don't want to do that either." The feeling of having her life in someone else's hands made Ziyun feel terrible. But under the current situation, Ziyun had no choice but to follow Gu Yan's instructions. Otherwise, after Shirong was killed, she would definitely be killed as well. Gu Yan used your soul power to control you. Ning Lu pulled Shirong behind him and lightly said to Ziyun, "I can sever the connection between you and that soul force." "Is that true?" Ziyun was startled as she asked. 3. Seeing Ziyun and Ning Lu conversing, Gu Yan immediately said, 2. You can choose not to believe me, or you can take a gamble. Ning Lu shrugged his shoulders, looking indifferent. Although Ning Lu appeared to be calm, he was extremely nervous in his heart. The little Kylan was still consolidating its cultivation and was unable to kill Gu Yan in a short period of time. Under this situation, no one would help him. He could only rely on himself to think of a way. "Okay, I'll bet." Ziyun was not an indecisive person. She immediately made her decision to take a gamble. 1. Just when Ziyun announced to take a gamble, Gu Yan had already counted a 1, refusing a toast only to drink a forfeit. The furious Gu Yan detonated a portion of Ziyun's soul force in his sea of consciousness, wanting to teach Ziyun a lesson. "Go!" Seeing Gu Yan's action, Ning Lu flicked his sleeve and a dark golden branch appeared. The dark golden branch gradually expanded above Ziyun's head and in the end, enveloped Ziyun entirely. Crack! 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 Just when the dark golden branch enveloped Ziyun, it suffered a terrifying attack. Without a doubt, those attacks were initially targeted at Ziyun, but they were all blocked by the dark golden branch. "Damn it, it won't cost me 2 dark golden branches, right?" Ning Lu couldn't help cursing when he saw the dark golden branch on the verge of breaking. Every dark golden branch was extremely important to Ning Lu. The World Tree's branch was practically omnipotent. Right now, Ning Lu's cultivation was only at the late phase Heavenly Supreme Realm. If his cultivation reached the late phase Saint Realm, or even the Pinnacle Saint Realm, then his dark golden branch's effect should be comparable to the immortal Ascension Grass. Go! Although he felt helpless, Ning Lu was someone who would do what he said. No, he was a world tree that would do what he said. He once again threw out a dark golden branch, enveloping Ziyun within it. Burn all of them. Gu Yan's nose was crooked from anger. He continuously executed a secret technique, detonating all of Ziyun's soul force in his sea of consciousness. Crack! 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 The dark golden branch that was protecting Ziyun let out another cracking sound. Ning Lu was completely dumbfounded. He couldn't help but look at Ziyun with a puzzled expression. How much soul force did you leave in Gu Yan's sea of consciousness? Ning Lu felt that he should ask clearly. Otherwise, all 5 of his dark golden branches would be consumed if he dragged on like this. After all, his strength would drop by at least half after losing 5 dark golden branches. Ning Lu wasn't that stupid to let his strength drop by half for Ziyun. There's still a little left. Not much left. Ziyun bit her lips, her face full of unwillingness. A man who is never content is like a snake trying to swallow an elephant. After the incident in Four Corner City, Ziyun finally understood a truth. There is always someone better than you. Some things couldn't be solved by strength alone. You also needed schemes. When she was in the Purple Sun Empire, Ziyun almost didn't care about the outside world and only focused on cultivation. Although her cultivation had reached the middle phase of the Saint Realm, she had fallen behind a lot in terms of worldly wisdom. Damn it, I'll help her to the end. Ning Lu cursed inwardly. Then he forced out another dark golden branch and threw it at Ziyun's head. Crack! Crack! Just when Ning Lu stretched out the 3rd branch, the first branch couldn't hold on any longer and was shattered by the powerful attack. I don't believe it. The furious Ning Lu displayed the 4th dark golden branch. Aside from the first dark golden branch that had shattered, there were a total of 3 dark golden branches that shrouded Ziyun's head. The 3 dark golden branches blocked Gu Yan's attack. Damn it, let's fight. Seeing that he couldn't hurt Ziyun, Gu Yan decided to fight. He stomped on the ground and rushed toward Ning Lu. Chapter 1805. If you dare to take another step forward, I promise to kill Shirong. Seeing Gu Yan rushing towards him, Ning Lu dragged Shirong out again and said in a cold voice, I'm a man of my words. I won't go back on my words. I don't believe that you dare to kill. If you kill Shirong, you have to die today too. Since he made a decision, Gu Yan absolutely would not change it. He calculated that Ning Lu did not dare to really kill Shirong, so he raised his speed to the limit, planning to kill Ning Lu first and save Shirong before talking. Originally, Gu Yan would not take the risk out of desperation. After all, Shirong's safety was of the utmost importance, even more important than his own life. But over there, little Qilin was about to completely consolidate its cultivation. He could only choose to gamble. Actually, Gu Yan chose to gamble because he had another consideration. Ning Lu definitely wanted to live. And under this kind of situation, Ning Lu had a very high possibility of throwing Shirong to the other side and then escape by himself. As long as Ning Lu made this choice, he could bring Shirong and cast a secret art to leave. Even if Ning Lu had a contingency plan on Shirong, Gu Yan was not afraid either. All right, you win. I indeed don't dare to kill Shirong. Ning Lu's right hand suddenly slapped on Shirong's back, revealing a pained appearance at the same time. Lifting his right leg, Ning Lu suddenly exerted force, kicking Shirong towards another direction. I'm going to kill him. Originally, seeing Ning Lu kick out Shirong, Gu Yan was very happy. But when Gu Yan saw the direction Shirong flew towards, his entire person became terrible. For directions, the direction Shirong flew towards just happened to be the direction where little Qilin and Ning Yu were. I'll find you to settle the score later. Gu Yan glared at Ning Lu fiercely, then immediately turned his head and charged towards Shirong. In the process of advancing, Gu Yan constantly prayed that little Qilin had not consolidated its cultivation yet. If the cultivation had not been completely consolidated, little Qilin's combat power would be very limited. At most, it could only be on par with him. Once little Qilin's cultivation stabilized, then even he would not be its match. Hence, Gu Yan's current attention shifted from Ning Lu to little Qilin. Let's go. At this time, little Qilin's eyes suddenly opened, and its four hooves stomped on the ground as it carried Ning Yu and sprinted towards Ning Lu. Who? After little Qilin and Ning Yu left, Gu Yan heaved a sigh of relief. Gu Yan increased his speed again, grabbed Shirong, and then forcibly tore open the void and entered. Rumble. There is always a fine line between ideals and reality. As soon as Gu Yan grabbed Shirong and entered the void, he quickly threw Shirong out. Shirong drew an arc in midair. Then his body rapidly expanded, and with a boom he exploded. Oh! Shirong's explosion made Gu Yan's face look extremely ferocious. I'll kill you all. Gu Yan clenched his fists. Due to his anger, Gu Yan became violent. The combat power that a berserk late-stage Sage Dan puppet could unleash was absolutely astonishing. Kill. Gu Yan's body quickly swept out. His first target was Ning Lu. Gu Yan was not a fool. He naturally knew why Shirong had self-destructed. If Ning Lu hadn't done something, how could Shirong have self-detonated? What bad luck. All 5 dark golden branches have been wasted. Shirong's self-detonation did not make Ning Lu excited. On the contrary, it made him furious. He had given 4 dark golden branches to Ziyun, and now 2 of them had already been destroyed. Furthermore, judging from the situation, the remaining 2 wouldn't last long. The dark golden branch that was inserted into Shirong's back had also been destroyed by Shirong's self-detonation. The destruction of the 5 dark golden branches was a huge blow to Ning Lu. If you want to kill Ning Lu, you'll have to go through me. The little Qilin first put down Ning Yu, who was on its back, and its figure flickered, blocking Gu Yan's path. If God obstructs me, I'll kill God. If Buddha obstructs me, I'll kill Buddha. Guyan's mind was already muddled by anger. He didn't care if it was the little Qilin in front of him or not. Boom! At this moment, the late-stage Sage Guyan and the little Qilin started fighting. Are you all right? On the other side, Ningyu landed beside Ning Lu and asked out of concern, "Why do you look so disappointed? If it were you, you would be even more disappointed than me." Rolling his eyes at Ningyu, Ning Lu continued, "I'm worried that the little Qilin isn't Guyan's match. What are you worried about? You don't have to worry about it." Ningyu waved his hand and interrupted Ning Lu's words. Actually, the little Qilin has already consolidated its cultivation. The reason why it hasn't made a move against Guyan is because it's observing the deepest part of the immortal crystal vein. Observing the deepest part of the immortal crystal vein? Ning Lu was puzzled. He had no idea what Ningyu was talking about. Nodding his head, Ningyu explained, "In the deepest part of the immortal crystal vein, there's a teleportation array." In that instant, the little Qilin noticed that the teleportation array was about to be activated. According to the aura coming from the teleportation array, there will definitely be a Sage Realm cultivator descending once the teleportation array is activated. Before we know if the other party is a friend or foe, we have to be careful. Hearing Ning Yu's explanation, Ning Lu's face turned grave. A teleportation array located in the immortal crystal vein was definitely not simple. Although he didn't know where the teleportation array would lead to, it wouldn't be wrong to be careful. How do you intend to deal with Ziyun's matter? Retracting his thoughts, Ning Lu turned around and pointed at Ziyun. She was trying to take advantage of the chaos to rob us. I feel that we should deal with her and devour her. If you want to devour, go ahead. Why are you asking me? Ning Yu couldn't be bothered with Ning Lu. If Ning Lu really wanted to devour Ziyun, he wouldn't have used up 4 dark golden branches to help Ziyun. Now that all the dark golden branches were used up, his strength would definitely drop. Ning Lu chuckled, as if his scheme had succeeded. Hee, let's make an agreement first. I owe you a favor this time. You better not ask about Ziyun's matter. I'm not interested. I just want to ask if Ziyun is stronger than Lu Wei. Ning Yu asked without batting an eyelid. It's not the same. The purple spiritual body and the void spiritual body have their own advantages. Ning Lu didn't know that Ning Yu was trying to get information from him. So he continued, comparatively speaking, I'm more inclined towards the void spiritual body. Because not only does the void spiritual body have a shocking cultivation speed, the cultivation speed around her is also shocking. But one thing was certain, and that was that there could only be one person by her side. If there's an additional person, the effect will be reduced by half. What the F***CK? Ning Yu cursed. No wonder Ning Lu didn't want him to ask about Ziyun's matter. So that brat already had a plan. Since Ning Lu said this, it meant that he was already prepared. Who knows, he might have already done something to the dark golden branches and secretly controlled Ziyun. Chapter 1806. You can't keep it to yourself. Ning Yu looked at Ning Lu and said, you have to listen to Ziyun's opinion on who she wants to be with. You can't decide for her. This is bad. Hearing Ning Yu's words, Ning Lu knew that he had a slip of the tongue. However, Ning Lu's acting skills were superb. He slightly knitted his brows and asked, I have no idea what you're talking about. Can you explain it to me? Don't play dumb with me. Cultivating beside the ethereal physique will allow you to achieve twice the result with half the effort. Ning Yu rolled his eyes and said, you're a late heavenly supreme, and I'm only a mid-heavenly supreme. Wait until I reach the mid-heavenly supreme, then I'll give Ziyun to you. Ziyun has her own thoughts. If she wants to stay by my side, then there's nothing I can do. Ning Lu shrugged, expressing his helplessness. Pucci. At this moment, Ziyun, who was far away, vomited a mouthful of blood and became extremely weak. What did you do to me? Feeling the changes in her body, Ziyun's face changed. She couldn't help reprimanding Ning Lu. I advise you to take back the thing in my body. Otherwise, I'll teach you a lesson. I'm sorry. I'm good looking, so I don't need your help. Ning Lu bashfully smiled and said, go to the other side and hide. I'll explain it to you after the little Qilin deals with Guyan. Oof. Clearly, Ziyun wasn't convinced by Ning Lu's words. With a cold snort, she began to walk towards Ningyu. Russell, seeing Ziyun walking towards Ningyu, Ning Lu's face turned ugly. He immediately moved to block Ziyun's path. Ning Lu's face turned ugly, and he coldly said, "I saved you from Gu Yan. I'm already being merciful by not asking you to express your gratitude. How dare you give me such an expression? Go, go, go. Stay in the corner." Ningyu pushed Ning Lu and said, "Others don't believe you, but you insist on sticking your warm face to a cold butt. Who are you calling a cold butt?" Ningyu was just halfway through his thought when he shivered. Ziyun furiously glared at Ningyu, wishing that she could skin Ningyu alive. "I'm not targeting you." Ningyu spread his hands and said helplessly, "I just want to know, do you know about your physique?" "What do you mean?" Ziyun had no idea what Ningyu was asking and felt puzzled. "Don't ask. She doesn't know that she has an empty spirit body." Ning Lu immediately interrupted Ningyu, afraid that Ningyu would spill the beans. In Ning Lu's heart, no matter what, he had to make Ziyun stay. Furthermore, he had to make sure that Ziyun was perfectly fine, because only by staying by her side and cultivating would he be able to achieve twice the result with half the effort. For example, Lu Wei's violet spiritual body and Ziyun's void spiritual body. This was a unique physique of the world. Without a certain amount of time, the person involved wouldn't even know about it. From Ziyun's reaction, Ning Lu could basically confirm that she didn't know that he had the void spiritual physique. In other words, Ziyun's void spiritual physique had yet to awaken. Even without awakening the void spiritual physique, she was still able to reach the intermediate saint realm. How terrifying would her strength be? The more he thought about it, the more Ning Lu felt that he couldn't let Ziyun awaken the void spiritual physique. At the very least, before he and Ningyu reached the saint realm, he couldn't let Ziyun awaken the void spiritual physique. Otherwise, with Ziyun's intermediate saint realm cultivation and the void spiritual physique, she might even be able to fight a Qilin in the intermediate saint realm. Fighting a Qilin, that kind of battle prowess had already reached a level that made others blush with shame. "Nothing much. I just wanted to ask you what you're going to do next." Ningyu swallowed the words that were about to come out of his mouth. "What else can I do? Of course, I'm going to mine the immortal crystal vein." "How ridiculous." Ziyun rolled her eyes at Ningyu and continued, "I have no idea when the little Qilin will be able to defeat Gu Yan. Otherwise, with the little Qilin's help, we would be able to mine all the immortal crystals in the immortal crystal vein very quickly. If I were to do it myself now, I have no idea how long it would take. The little Qilin will definitely defeat Gu Yan. Let's see when you can mine all the immortal crystals in the immortal crystal vein." Ningyu joked, "Why don't you go and mine the immortal crystals in the immortal crystal vein, while the little Qilin and Gu Yan are fighting?" "MHM." Ziyun frowned her brows. She had no idea what Ningyu was trying to do. It's still unknown if the little Qilin sword can defeat Gu Yan. Under such circumstances, Ningyu still asked her to mine the immortal crystal vein. Isn't he using her as free labor? It's fine if the little Qilin wins, but if the little Qilin loses, the outcome would be unimaginable. Why? Do you think that the little Qilin can't defeat Gu Yan? Ningyu raised his brows and said, "Gu Yan is only a late-stage sage elixir puppet, while the little Qilin has already advanced to middle-stage sage. I believe I don't need to tell you who will win and who will lose. I can mine the immortal crystal vein, but I want 60% of the immortal crystals." Ziyun said, "I said 50%, so it's 50%. There's no reason for you to change your mind at the last minute." Ningyu didn't want to argue with Ziyun, but thinking that 10% of the immortal crystals would be 100, Ningyu felt his heart ache. 100 immortal crystals. Who knows how many Sky's sovereign realm martial artists could be created? To Ningyu, every immortal crystal had its use. Different from the others, there was still the Supreme Palace in Giant Shield City. There were many martial artists in the Supreme Palace, so 100 immortal crystals wasn't enough to be distributed. There weren't even enough people on his side, so how could Ningyu give Ziyun 10% more immortal crystals? Rumble. At this moment, the battle in the sky had reached its most exciting moment. The little Qilin executed all sorts of powerful techniques, suppressing Gu Yin to the point where he could only dodge and couldn't retaliate. Normally, Gu Yin wouldn't be the little Qilin's opponent, but the current situation was more normal, so it was impossible for Gu Yin to make a comeback. As for how long Gu Yin could last, it depended on how many trump cards he had. If he had more trump cards, he could last longer. If he had fewer trump cards, he could last longer. In short, Gu Yin would lose without a doubt. 30%. Ningyu stretched out 3 fingers and said, "I can only give you 30% of the immortal crystals in the vein. Don't go too far." Ziyun was so angry that her lungs were about to explode. At the start, there were 50% immortal crystals, but after a short exchange, there were only 30% left. According to the reserves of the immortal crystal vein, there were 500 immortal crystals with 50% and only 300 immortal crystals with 30%. She only argued for a little, wanting to gain more advantages, but it ended up like this. "The little Qilin is fighting with Gu Yin. Aren't you afraid that I'll capture you?" Chapter 1807. Are you daydreaming? Ningyu looked at Ziyun and asked in puzzlement. "If you could take me down, you would have done it long ago. Why wait until now?" Sigh. Shortly after, Ningyu sighed and said, "Giving you 30% of the immortal crystals is the biggest concession I can make after thinking about it. Although you reined in the horse in the nick of time, you nearly betrayed me with Gu Yin. You can't wash this off no matter how hard you try." The first part of Ningyu's words made Ziyun furious, but the second part made Ziyun speechless. She had indeed nearly betrayed Ningyu, and this was something that she couldn't wash off for the rest of her life. Not to mention that Ning Lu had left something in her body, so she could only choose to compromise. Ziyun was clear about the current situation. If she compromised, Ningyu would give her 30% of the immortal crystals. If she didn't compromise, Ning Lu would trigger the thing in her body and make her say goodbye to the world. With my own strength, I don't think I'll be able to mine the entire immortal crystal vein within a few hours. Ziyun took a deep breath and continued. In my opinion, we should let Old Man Tianji and Yunmu enter the vein. After all, one more person means one more force. There's no need. Ningyu shook his head, indicating that he didn't need Old Man Tianji and Yunmu's help. Ziyun was a little puzzled. Why didn't Ningyu let Old Man Tianji and Yunmu help? Could it be that he had someone else in mind? One must know that an immortal crystal vein wasn't something that just anyone could mine. If a cultivator's cultivation was too low, even if they entered the cave, there was a possibility of them collapsing. That's because the pressure in the immortal crystal vein was extremely great to a terrifying degree. Old Man Tianji, Yunmu, the Talisman Venerable, and Zhao Guochang weren't weak, so it wouldn't be a problem for them to mine the immortal crystal vein. Another free labor force. Ningyu pointed at the intense battle in the sky and said, "If I've guessed correctly, Gu Yin can only last for 3 seconds. 3, 2, 1. Bang! When Ningyu uttered the word 1, a muffled sound rang out in the air. Xiao! Along with the muffled sound, there was also a rapid air-piercing sound. Like a kite with a broken string, Gu Yin flew straight toward the entrance of the immortal crystal vein. Bang! Not long after, Gu Yin fell heavily at the entrance of the mine. He looked extremely weak. To kill or not to kill? The little Kylan chased after Gu Yin and raised its front paw, stepping on Gu Yin's head as it asked Ningyu, "Let's keep him alive for now and let him mine the immortal crystal mine for us." Ningyu shook his head, signaling the little Kylan not to rush to kill Gu Yin. It would be a waste not to use free labor. Mining immortal crystal veins was not only a technical job, but also a physical one. Without the support of abundant yuan qi, it was impossible to mine. Ningyu had already made up his mind. There were 1,000 immortal crystals in the immortal crystal vein. Ziyun and Gu Yin would mine 500. At that time, he would ask Ziyun for 200. In that case, Ziyun would have 30% and he would have 70%. Shit, retreat. Suddenly, an anxious voice rang in Ningyu's ears. What's going on? Hearing the anxious voice, although Ningyu didn't know what was going on, he still quickly retreated. The teleportation array in the depths of the immortal crystal vein has been activated. Experts are rushing over. The little Kylan grabbed Gu Yin and retreated far away in the blink of an eye. Rumble. Not long after Ning Yu and the rest retreated, the entire immortal crystal vein suddenly exploded. Xiao! 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 The immortal crystal vein exploded, sending countless rocks and shattered immortal crystals flying in all directions. Crash! The shattered immortal crystals and rocks did not attract Ning Yu and the little Kylan's attention. Their attention was attracted by the few figures above the immortal crystal vein. A peak stage sage, 2 late stage sages, and 2 mid stage sages. Feeling the terrifying aura emitted by the few figures in the air, Ning Yu and even the little Kylan's faces turned extremely ugly. The 5 experts were all at the sage level. No matter how strong the little Kylan was, it could only fight against a peak stage sage. It was unlikely to kill them. In addition to the peak stage sage, there were 2 late stage sages and 2 mid stage sages. What should he do with such a lineup? Ning Yu couldn't help but look at Ziyun. At this stage, he could only rely on Ziyun to deal with the 2 late-stage sages. If Ziyun could stop the 2 late-stage sages, then Ning Yu felt that he could pull the cold-looking man out of the remaining mid-stage sages. After all, it would still be useful if a late-stage sages showed signs of self-detonation. Of course, everything was based on the premise that the other party was an enemy. If the other party didn't have any ill intentions, then everything would be fine. However, looking at the expression of the peak stage sage leading the group, Ning Yu knew that they definitely didn't have good intentions. Kylan, the peak stage sage, had been looking at the little Kylan since he descended. Moreover, he was so excited that he almost jumped up. I knew that there would be a surprise here through the teleportation formation, but I didn't expect it to be such a big surprise. Next to the peak stage sage, a chubby late stage sage smiled and said, "I think the master will be very happy to bring this Kylan back." "Then what are you waiting for? Hurry up and do it." The other late-stage sage was called Zhao Xing. He looked very anxious and couldn't wait to rush forward. "Wait." The peak stage sage was called Song Wu. He raised his right hand slightly and then pressed it down gently. He said, "Don't just focus on a Kylan. We really found a treasure this time." "A treasure?" Zhao Xing was very confused. He didn't know what Song Wu meant. A late-stage sage elixir puppet. The chubby late-stage sage was called Zhang Shui. His eyes fell on Gu Yin, and he became very excited. For them, they had to give the Kylan to the master. They couldn't keep it for themselves. At most, they could exchange it for some 10th grade elixirs from the master. However, a late-stage sage elixir puppet was different. Once they caught this late-stage sage elixir puppet, they could kill on the spot and then devour it to improve their cultivation. "Oh my god, it's really a late-stage sage elixir puppet. We're rich this time." Zhao Xing shifted his gaze. When he confirmed that Gu Yin was an elixir puppet, his expression was even more exaggerated than Zhang Shui's. Zhang Shui only became excited, but Zhao Xing directly jumped up. "The 4 of you split into 2 teams and deal with the Kylan and the elixir puppet. Remember, you have to capture them alive." Chapter 1808. Void Spiritual Physique. I never thought that I would encounter one here. Song Wu's eyes were glued to Ziyun without any concealment. Zhao Xing and Zhang Shui might not have realized that Ziyun had the void spiritual physique, but Song Wu knew. There was no other reason. Song Wu had once seen in void spiritual physique in a higher realm. The void spiritual physique that Song Wu had seen before was not only powerful, but it was also a VIP wherever it went. Because cultivating beside the void spiritual physique could yield twice the results with half the effort. Some cultivators who were on the verge of breaking through would even pay a huge price to ask the void spiritual physique for help. In view of such a situation, how could Song Wu not be excited when he saw an empty spiritual physique in a low-level world? Moreover, it was only at the sage intermediate stage. Song Wu had already thought it through. Since Zhao Xing and Zhang Shui didn't know that this mid-realm sage had the void spiritual physique, then he wouldn't say it out loud. Instead, he would think of a way to bring this void spiritual physique to a higher realm. What are you guys still standing there for? The more he thought about it, the more excited Song Wu became. However, when Song Wu saw that Zhao Xing and Zhang Shui didn't make a move and were looking at Ziyun in confusion, his face turned cold and he berated. Do you guys want to make a move? Swish, swish. Seeing Song Wu's anger, Zhao Xing and Zhang Shui instantly retracted their doubts and rushed out. Zhao Xing brought a mid-realm sage to deal with the little Qilin. As for Zhang Shui, he brought another mid-realm sage to deal with Gu Yan. It's over. That guy must have found out that Ziyun has the void spiritual physique. Song Wu's actions made Ning Lu's heart sink to the bottom. Originally, he thought that by controlling Ziyun, he could use her void spiritual physique to cultivate. Who would have thought that a group of powerful people would appear out of nowhere? Should we leave first? Ning Lu wasn't an indecisive person. He knew that if he didn't make a decision, he would suffer. Therefore, he gritted his teeth and said, "It might be too late if we don't leave now. I'll get a helping to come back." Ning Yu wasn't willing. He didn't want to leave just like that. Although the enemy was powerful, it wasn't impossible. The little Qilin could deal with Song Wu, and Haoping could deal with Zhao Xing, and Ziyun could deal with Zhang Shui. As for the remaining two middle-stage sage experts, Ning Yu decided to hand them over to Zhang Chong, Tianji Laoren, and the others. Zhang Chong was a mid-stage sage. In order to help him recover as soon as possible, Ning Yu even gave him some immortal ascension grass. Under the powerful effect of the ascending immortal grass, Zhang Chong had almost recovered. Although he might not be able to kill a sage middle-stage warrior, it would not be a big problem to stall one. Although the Elder of Heavenly Secrets appeared harmless on the surface and did not have much battle prowess, the Elder of Heavenly Secrets did not have much battle prowess. However, Ning Yu knew that if even the peak Saint of the Jin clan could not do anything to the Elder of Heavenly Secrets, it meant that the Elder of Heavenly Secrets definitely had a trump card. How could an old man who had a trump card and was well-versed in the art of divination be killed so easily by a sage intermediate stage cultivator? Surrender, open your mind, and I can spare your life. Zhao Xing brought a warrior of the intermediate stage of the Saint Realm and floated in front of the small Qilin. He said coldly, "You should know that you won't be able to escape today. Why should I run? Just because of you stinky fish and shrimps?" The small Qilin rolled its eyes and said disdainfully, "To deal with an idiot like you, I don't need to use my full strength at all. I can kill you." I'm so angry. Zhao Xing was really going crazy after being called stinky fish and shrimps by the small Qilin. This was intolerable. At this time, Zhao Xing only had one thought in his mind, and that was to kill the small Qilin at all costs. "If I don't kill you today, I swear I'm not a human." Zhao Xing moved quickly and rushed toward the small Qilin without any regard for his life. Behind Zhao Xing, the warrior of the intermediate stage of the Saint Realm was very helpless and could only brace himself and rush forward. Kill. At the same time, on the other side, Zhang Shui led a warrior of the intermediate stage of the Saint Realm and charged toward Gu Yan. For Zhang Shui, the temptation and pressure of the Dan puppet of the advanced stage of the Saint Realm was huge. After all, Zhang Shui's cultivation was only at the advanced stage of the Saint Realm. Under the same cultivation, Zhang Shui did not dare to say that he could kill the Dan puppet with 100% certainty. Once a person began to doubt himself, his confidence would be shaken. Once his confidence was shaken, his fighting strength would be greatly reduced and his aura would be weakened. If his aura was weakened, it would be disastrous whether it was in terms of fighting or cultivation. Shaking his head, Zhang Shui forced himself to calm down. Rumble. Originally, with Gu Yan injured, Zhang Shui and a warrior of the intermediate stage of the Saint Realm should have been able to deal with him. But now, with Zhang Shui and a warrior of the intermediate stage of the Saint Realm, they could only be evenly matched with Gu Yan and could not kill him. With the two battles erupting, Ning Yu had no choice but to quickly contact Haoping. This time, Ning Yu had given a death order. No matter how fierce Jing Fei was, he had to rush back within 3 minutes. Because Ningyu wasn't sure when Song would make a move against Ziyun. Everyone want a share of the ethereal physique. Release the restrictions on me. I'll help you deal with this pinnacle stage Saint Realm warrior. Ziyun did not have much of a reaction. She only said to Ning Lu with an indifferent tone, "You better think it through. If I don't make a move, all of you will die today. Although I will die if you don't make a move, don't forget that you will also die if you don't make a move." Ning Lu shrugged his shoulders, indicating that he didn't care. Anyway, even a fool would be able to see through Song Wu's gaze. Due to his excitement, Song Wu's saliva was about to drip out. "What do you want?" How could Ziyun not know what Song Wu meant? The unceasing flow of saliva, the greed in his eyes, as well as his ghostly gaze, made Ziyun feel disgusted. "I don't want to do anything. I'm just a late-stage Heavenly Supreme. What can I do?" Ning Lu said in a slightly exaggerated tone. "Let me give you a piece of advice. You better think of a way to delay for a while before Song Wu makes a move against you." "Delay for a while? Why do I need to delay for a while?" Ziyun was puzzled. In Ziyun's view, Ning Lu should have released his control over her and begged her to bring him away. But Ning Lu's reaction was completely different. He didn't play by the rules. Ziyun didn't believe that Ning Lu still had a trump card. In other words, Ziyun didn't believe that Ningyu had a trump card. Although she had only interacted with Ningyu for a few hours, Ziyun knew that Ningyu was a special person. He didn't play by the rules. But even if he didn't play by the rules, he wouldn't be able to cause too much of a commotion when facing a pinnacle stage Saint Realm warrior. After all, in front of absolute strength, all schemes and schemes were useless. Damn it. Chapter 1809. On the other side, a stern-faced cultivator suddenly appeared beside Ningyu. From the aura emitted by this cultivator, Ziyun could tell that this cultivator's cultivation wasn't low. At this moment, Ningyu placed his right hand on the stern-faced cultivator's back and faintly said, "You can make them stop now." MHM? Song Wu couldn't help knitting his brows when he heard Ning use indifferent words. Song Wu was in the pinnacle Saint Realm, so he could naturally tell that the stern-faced cultivator before Ning Yu was in the late-phase Saint Realm. If it was just a late-phase Saint Realm cultivator, Song Wu might not even bother to look at him. But most importantly, the stern-faced cultivator's body was in a weird state. Starting from his face, his neck, his upper body, his lower body, and his ankles were all slightly swollen. Furthermore, the swelling was getting worse. Self-destruct. Song Wu suddenly thought of this word when he saw the stern-faced cultivator's state. His entire body was swollen and his aura was spreading. This was clearly a sign of self-destruction. Who was this mid-phase Heavenly Supreme cultivator? How could he control a late-phase Saint Realm cultivator to self-destruct? Song Wu was very puzzled, extremely puzzled. However, he was worried that Ningyu would really make the stern-faced cultivator self-destruct. So Song Wu waved his hand and signaled Zhao Xing and Zhang Shui to stop their attacks. Rustle, 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 rustle. After they stopped their attacks, Zhao Xing, Zhang Shui, and the two mid-phase Saint Realm cultivators moved and descended beside Song Wu. As for the little Qilin, Gu Yin, and the rest, they gathered around Ningyu. "Ningyu, I'll help you this time. How about you let me go after we get through this?" Gu Yin lowered his voice when he gathered around Ningyu. "I guarantee that I'll hold up in late-phase Saint Realm and a mid-phase Saint Realm cultivator until your reinforcements arrive." "You're overthinking it." Ningyu shrugged his shoulders and replied indifferently, "I don't have reinforcements. If you can hold back that peak sage, I can let you go." Turning his head to look at Song Wu, who was emitting a powerful aura, Gu Yan's face darkened. Not to mention that he was injured. Even if he was not injured, he would not be able to fight against a martial artist at the peak of the Sage Realm. Why did Ningyu ask him to deal with Song Wu, who was at the peak of the Sage Realm? "How about we both take a step back?" As Ningyu injected Yuan Qi into the cold-looking man's body, he said to Song Wu, "You leave with your friend, and I will leave with mine. From now on, we will mind our own business." "Do you think you can fool me with a warrior at the peak of the Saint Realm?" Song Wu said disdainfully. "To tell you the truth, I'm not scared. I know you're not scared. I just don't want both of us to suffer, Ningyu said. Ha ha ha. At this moment, Song Wu laughed. His laughter was extremely savage. After laughing, Song Wu's face turned cold, and he said coldly, "So what if a late-stage Sage Realm cultivator self-destructs? If you really dare to let him self-destruct, you will definitely do it secretly. You will definitely not push him out in the open." Pa, pa, pa. Ningyu clapped his hands and said, "You're smart. It's true that I don't dare to let him self-destruct. But if someone forces me to do so, I have no other choice." "You're threatening me," Song Wu said, squinting his eyes. "If you insist, then treat it as me threatening you." After saying this, Ningyu closed his eyes and did not speak anymore. Since Ningyu did not speak, Yun Mu and the rest would naturally not speak. In an instant, the entire area became quiet. Damn it! Song Wu took a glance at Ziyun and couldn't help cursing in his heart. Just when he was about to get his hands on the duck, he did not expect that the cooked duck would fly away at the crucial moment. Song Wu was unwilling because he had already made up his mind. No matter how difficult it was, he would take down Ziyun and bring her to a higher plane. Even if he did not want Cash, Little Qilin, or the pellet puppet, he had to get the ethereal body. Zhao Xing Zhang Shui go. I don't believe that he really dares to let that cold-looking cultivator self-destruct. After a while, Song Wu gritted his teeth and said fiercely, "As long as we can take down the Little Qilin and the pellet puppet, I will definitely put in a few good words for you in front of the Grandmaster. I will ask the Grandmaster to personally refine an elixir for you, giving you the opportunity to reach the pinnacle of the Sage Realm." Really? Hearing Song Wu's promise, Zhao Xing and Zhang Shui revealed an excited expression. The two of them were different from Song Wu. When Song Wu was in a higher plane, his cultivation far surpassed the Sage Realm. As for the two of them, even in a higher plane, their cultivation was only in the late stage of the Sage Realm. There were two reasons why they could not break through to the pinnacle of the Sage Realm in a higher plane. Firstly, their talent was really low. Secondly, there was no pill emperor to refine elixir for them. As the saying went, if one's talent was not enough, they could make up for it with elixir. Song Wu's status was not low. If he personally pleaded, the Grandmaster would definitely refine elixir for the two of them. The more they thought about it, the more excited Zhao Xing and Zhang Shui became. How can this be fake? Song Wu's expression was gloomy as he said, "Follow the original plan. I don't believe that they would really dare to let a late-stage Sage Realm martial artist self-destruct. Go." Zhao Xing and Zhang Shui looked at each other and saw a little nervousness in each other's eyes. Although they were nervous, in order to reach the pinnacle of the Sage Realm, the two of them still braced themselves and rushed toward Ningyu. "Very well. You refuse a toast only to drink a forfeit." Looking at Zhao Xing and Zhang Shui, who were constantly rushing toward him, a cold look appeared in the corner of Ningyu's eyes. In the next moment, Ningyu's right hand slapped the back of the cold-looking man and pushed him toward Zhao Xing and Zhang Shui. Oh no! Originally, Zhao Xing and Zhang Shui were extremely nervous. They were afraid that Ningyu would let the cold-looking man self-destruct. Now that they saw Ningyu push the cold-looking man out, the two of them turned pale with fright and hurriedly dodged left and right. Now, seeing Zhao Xing and Zhang Shui dodging left and right, the Little Qilin, Gu Yin, and even Ziyun quickly rushed out. In fact, Ningyu had already arranged everything. Ningyu knew that Song Wu would definitely not come over himself. He would definitely let Zhao Xing and Zhang Shui come over to test the waters. As long as Zhao Xing and Zhang Shui dared to come over, the Little Qilin, Gu Yin, and Ziyun would attack. They did not hope to kill the two of them. They only hoped to seriously injure them and make them lose most of their fighting strength. Think about it. If Zhao Xing and Zhang Shui lost their combat power, then Song Wu alone would not be able to stir up too much trouble. Swish! Swish! The Little Qilin, Ziyun, and Gu Yin had a tacit understanding. Among them, the Little Qilin attacked Zhao Xing, while Ziyun and Gu Yin attacked Zhang Shui. "Song Wu, save us!" seeing the little Qilin and Gu Yin rushing toward them. Zhao Xing and Zhang Shui's expressions changed drastically. They retreated while screaming. In fact, under normal circumstances, the two of them would not be afraid of the little Qilin and Ziyun. Chapter 1810. Two Pieces of Trash. Seeing Zhao Xing and Zhang Shui panicking, Song Wu's face turned extremely ugly. However, although Song Wu was very angry, for the safety of Zhao Xing and Zhang Shui, he still braced himself and charged forward. Of course, since he had chosen to charge forward, Song Wu would definitely not be stupid enough to face the cold-looking man who was about to self-destruct. Regardless of whether the cold-looking man would self-destruct or not, Song Wu would not put himself in danger. When he charged out, Song Wu brought out the remaining two intermediate Sage Realm cultivators. Abandoned pawns to protect the general. Song Wu decided to let the two intermediate Sage Realm cultivators face the cold-looking man, while he faced the little Qilin, Ziyun, and the rest. Get lost! As Zhao Xing and Zhang Shui were running in the opposite direction, they soon met with Song Wu. Song Wu didn't show any mercy to Zhao Xing and Zhang Shui, these two cowards. Instead, he kicked each of them back to where they came from. I'll deal with Song Wu. Seeing that the other party was charging over, the little Qilin immediately turned around and gave up on Zhao Xing, turning to face Song Wu. Rumble. The fight between the two pinnacle experts instantly caused earth-shattering fluctuations in the surroundings. Both the little Qilin and Song Wu were very powerful. Even if the little Qilin was at an absolute disadvantage, it would not be killed in a short time if the situation continued. The outcome of the fight between the two of them could not be determined in a short time, and there would not even be any casualties. However, on the other side of the battlefield, casualties soon appeared. When Ziyun and Gu Yin joined hands, their fighting strength was not to be underestimated. Furthermore, Zhang Shui did not intend to resist at the beginning. It was Song Wu who forced him to turn around and attack. Therefore, the battle on his side was the first to be decided. Crack! Crack! Ziyun and Gu Yan's attacks landed on Zhang Shui's chest at almost the same time. The powerful force directly caused Zhang Shui to fly backward, and several of his ribs were broken. In this state, Zhang Shui's fighting strength had dropped by at least 80%. Crash! Zhang Chong and Old Man Tianji reacted very quickly. Almost at the same time, when Zhang Shui was sent flying, they rushed out, intending to subdue Zhang Shui and buy time for Ziyun and Gu Yan. After all, the pressure on the little Qilin's side was great, and Ziyun and Gu Yan's main task was to attack Zhao Xing. After dealing with Zhao Xing, they would go and help the little Qilin. Although Elder Tianji and Zhang Chong were not strong, they had no problem dealing with the heavily injured Zhang Shui. Oh my god! Seeing that Zhang Shui was defeated in an instant, Zhao Xing was so scared that his legs went soft, and even his voice was shaky. Run! At this moment, Zhao Xing only had one thought in his mind, and that was to escape. Who cared if he was at the peak of Saint Song Wu, a master, or a pill? Only when he was alive could he pursue these things. If he lost his life, what was the use of medicinal pills? Stop chasing, go, and help little Qilin. Originally, Gu Yan wanted to chase after Zhao Xing, but Ziyun had seen through him. Now wasn't the time to chase after Zhao Xing. Instead, he had to hurry over to help the little Qilin. So what if Zhao Xing ran away? At least in a short period of time, he wouldn't be able to stir up too much of storm. Go! Gu Yan looked at Zhao Xing's back unwillingly, then turned around and joined the battle in the air. To be honest, Gu Yan really wanted to capture Zhao Xing alive, because until now, Gu Yan still had hope that Ningyu wouldn't kill him. From Gu Yan's point of view, as long as he could capture Zhang Shui and Zhao Xing alive, and let Ningyu see that he was still useful, he wouldn't die. But Ziyun had already said that she would help the little Qilin. If he was still stubborn, it would definitely leave a bad impression in Ningyu's heart. In order to survive, Gu Yan decided to follow Ziyun and help the little Qilin. Rumble. In the air, the battle was getting more and more intense. Originally, the little Qilin was not Song Wu's opponent, and could only bitterly hold on. But after Gu Yin and Ziyun joined the battle, the pressure on its body was instantly reduced. Although the pressure was reduced, it didn't mean that the little Qilin had a chance of winning. On the contrary, the chances of winning were getting lower and lower, because Song Wu changed his strategy. In the beginning, Song Wu didn't use his full strength because he wanted to capture the little Qilin alive. But after seeing Gu Yin and Ziyun join the battle, Song Wu immediately changed his strategy and used all his strength. Since Song Wu used all his strength, the ones who suffered were naturally the little Qilin and the rest. Therefore, when Ziyun and Gu Yin joined the battle, not only did they not help the little Qilin, but they also put the little Qilin in an even more dangerous situation. They shouldn't be Song Wu's opponent. We have a plan early. Looking at the battle in the air, Ning Lu said in a deep voice, "Now we have two choices. First, when Haoping comes, let him join the battle and fight Song Wu to death." Speaking up to here, Ning Lu paused for a moment and immediately continued. "As for the second choice, I think you know it even without me saying it. Leave. Leave as soon as possible." "There's no way to leave." Ning Yu shook his head and said, "Since Song Wu didn't take the initiative to fight the cold-looking man, it means that he's still afraid of the cold-looking man exploding himself. We can use this to force Song Wu." "How do we force him?" Ning Lu asked doubtfully. He didn't know what Ning Yu was planning. Ning Yu didn't answer Ning Lu's question immediately. Instead, he shifted his gaze to the other side. After a while, Ning Yu said, "They're coming." Swish! Swish! As soon as Ning Yu said the word, "They're coming," two figures, one in front and one behind, flew straight to this side. And Haoping, Jing Fei. At first, Ning Lu didn't know what Ning Yu was going to do. However, when he saw An Haoping and Jing Fei suddenly flying over, as well as the cold-looking man in An Haoping's hand, he instantly understood everything. Are you really going to let the cold-looking man explode himself? Ning Lu's face was full of disbelief. He looked a little dumbfounded. After all, the cold-looking man was a genuine late-stage Saint Realm warrior. If a late-stage Saint Realm warrior blew himself up here, the entire Four-Corner City would probably be razed to the ground if there was no one to stop him. That's my plan, but it depends on whether Song Wu cooperates. Ning Yu looked solemn and said, "If he cooperates, it's good for everyone. However, if he doesn't, then we'll all die together." Damn it! Song Wu had no idea what Ning Yu was thinking. However, Song Wu knew clearly about the sudden appearance of two late-stage Saint Realm warriors. To be honest, with Song Wu's current combat strength, he could easily deal with two more late-stage Saint Realm warriors, let alone two late-stage Saint Realm warriors. What made Song Wu angry was that he found that one of the late-stage Saint Realm warriors was holding the cold-looking man. This discovery was the reason why the cold-looking man was really angry and even a little scared. The cold-looking man returned, and his body swelled even more. Chapter 1811. Holy shit! Jing Fei was in a terrible mood. He was blocked by An Haoping in Four-Corner City, which prevented him from coming to the immortal crystal vein. Originally, when An Haoping took the initiative to leave, Jing Fei felt that his chance had come. Finally, he could go and find trouble with Ning Yu. Who would have thought that he would see a pinnacle sage realm martial artist? Moreover, none of the three who fought with the pinnacle sage realm martial artist was weaker than him. Qilin, who was in the intermediate sage realm, could easily kill him. Ziyun, who was in the intermediate sage realm, could not be his opponent. As for Dan Jin, who was in the advanced sage realm, Jing Fei knew that he could not defeat her. Since the enemy was powerful, he should leave first. Jing Fei was not an indecisive person. He was very clear about the principle of being decisive when it was time to make a decision. Therefore, when he saw the pinnacle sage realm martial artist fighting and An Haoping foolishly rushing forward, Jing Fei immediately decided to leave. Where there's life, there's hope. He would first go to the Pill Emperor City to meet up with the Jin family's experts, then slowly think of a way to deal with Ning Yu. Jean Fei did not believe that Ningyu would not go to the Pill Emperor City to participate in the alchemy conference. Consider yourself lucky. Before leaving, Jean Fei did not forget to leave some harsh words. Of course, in this situation, Jean Fei's harsh words were powerless. Since you're here, why not stay and watch the show? Seeing that Jean Fei wanted to leave, Ningyu gave Ninglu a look and said to Jean Fei, "That pinnacle sage realm martial artist wants to monopolize the immortal crystal vein. Don't you think you should go and persuade him?" "I'll persuade him a few times." Jean Fei wished that he could skin Ningyu alive. Actually, Jean Fei's thoughts were simple. He could give up on the immortal crystal vein. The most important thing now was to leave as soon as possible before that pinnacle sage realm martial artist noticed him. Otherwise, it would be too late if he waited for that pinnacle sage realm martial artist to notice him. "I can rope him in." Song Wu, who was fighting far away, instantly saw Jean Fei's expression. Since Ning Yu and Jing Fei had a grudge against each other, he might as well rope Jing Fei in and let him stop the cold man. As long as the cold-looking man did not approach him, Song Wu had absolute confidence that he could leave. Even if the cold-looking man were to self-destruct, he would be able to escape successfully from such a long distance. At most, he would only suffer some minor injuries. Thinking of this, Song Wu hurriedly sent a voice transmission to Jing Fei. "If you help me stop that cold-looking warrior at the late stage of the Sage Realm, I can give you 1,000 immortal crystals." I can't believe it. Hearing Song Wu's words, Jean Fei was dumbfounded. "As long as I stop this stern-looking man, I can get 1,000 immortal crystals?" No matter how he looked at it, this was a good deal. However, Jing Fei was a person who would not release an eagle until he saw the rabbit. If Song Wu wanted to persuade him with his glib tongue, it would be as difficult as ascending to the heavens. "Give me 500 immortal crystals as a deposit first." Once a person's greed took over, they would desperately suppress their rationality. At this time, Jing Fei's greed had the upper hand. He began to bargain with Song Wu. "I promise I will stop the cold man." In Jing Fei's opinion, it did not matter who he worked with, since he could get so many immortal crystals by working with a warrior at the peak of the Sage Realm. Why not? Besides, Jing Fei did not think that he would be hindered by Song Wu in the end. After all, the Jin family was not to be trifled with. This time, there were warriors at the peak of the Sage Realm among the warriors of the Jin family who had descended from the high-level planes. As long as it could catch mice, it was a good cat. At this time, Jing Fei was even a little excited. According to the distribution method discussed by the four empires, the Jin family of the Qinya Empire could get 250 immortal crystals at most. Now, there's a great chance that he could get 500 immortal crystals. As for getting 1,000 immortal crystals from Song Wu, Jing Fei did not even think about it. In other words, Jing Fei was the one who wanted to get something without risking anything. Damn, why is this person even more greedy than me? Hearing Jing Fei's words, Song Wu's whole body became uncomfortable. The reason why he wanted to work with Jing Fei was that he wanted to solve the problem of the cold-looking man self-destructing at the lowest cost. On the other hand, he wanted to use Jing Fei to catch Ning Yu. Song Wu was not stupid. He knew very well that although Ning Yu's cultivation seemed to be only at the middle stage of the Sky Supreme stage, he was very powerful. It could be said that without Ning Yu in the middle, Little Kailin and the others were just a mass of loose sand. "Come here, I'll give you 500 immortal crystals." Song Wu gritted his teeth as if he had made a big sacrifice. He continued, "I, Song Wu, can swear to the heavenly Tao that if I cheat you, I will never be able to return to the high-level planes." Is he really going to give me 500 immortal crystals? Song Wu's behavior indeed made Jing Fei suspicious. Logically speaking, Jing Fei should completely believe Song Wu when he made the heavenly Tao oath. However, for some reason, Jing Fei felt that there was a trap. "I'll risk it. The bold ones will be stuffed to death, and the timid ones will starve to death." Jing Fei was a person who liked to gamble. He immediately decided to take a gamble. If Song Wu went back on his word, he could find a way to escape. After all, Songwu was still fighting with little Kylan and the others, so he should not have time to deal with him. Swoosh! Before departing, Jing Fei glanced at an Haoping who had landed next to Ningyu. Then, his figure flashed, and he rushed toward Songwu. You go over too. Bring the cold-looking man over. Seeing Jing Fei rush toward Songwu, Ningyu waved his hand and signaled an Haoping to bring the cold-looking man over. Since he was putting on a show, he had to go all the way. The previous few times, Ningyu had used fake self-destruction to deceive others. This time, Ningyu decided to really let the cold-looking man self-destruct. In other words, he had to increase the amount of essence chi that was injected into the cold-looking man's body, so that he was at the critical point of self-destruction or not. Only this way, it would be convincing. Otherwise, it would be hard for an old fox like Song Wu to believe him. I got it. Just as Jing Fei rushed toward Song Wu, and an Haoping rushed out with the cold-looking man, Ning Lu's voice suddenly rang in Ning Yu's ears. When the two words that Ning Lu said fell into Ning Yu's ears, it made Ning Yu's heart move. Just now, Ning Yu gave Ning Lu a look, meaning to let Ning Lu think of a way to get some information from Zhang Shui. As long as he could get some useful information, then he would have the capital to negotiate with Song Wu. These people are mainly under the orders of Master Gong Yangqing. They came here through the Pill Imperial City's Alchemy Association's internal teleportation array. Ning Lu sorted out his thoughts and immediately said, they only have one goal, and that is to bring away a Kylan as an elixir for Gong Yangqing to refine. 2. Don't tell me these useless things. I want to know if we can use Zhang Shui to keep Songwu in check. Ningyu waved his hand and interrupted Ning Lu's words, asking in a deep voice. Chapter 1812. I'm afraid not. Ning Lu shook his head and said, in Song Wu's eyes, Zhang Shui is just a small fry. Song Wu doesn't care about his life or death. That's right, that Grandmaster Gong Yang. How did he know that there was a Qilin in Four Corner City? Since he could not use Zhang Shui to keep Song Wu in check, Ningyu did not dwell on this matter and asked in confusion. Gong Yangqing had Song Wu and the others come here to take away a Qilin, which meant that he knew there was a Qilin here. Ningyu found it strange. Gong Yangqing was in Alchemy Emperor City, which was very far from Four Corner City. How could Gong Yangqing calculate such a long distance? Zhang Shui doesn't know the specifics. Gong Yangqing only told them that there was a Qilin in Four Corner City and told them to take it away through the teleportation formation. Ning Lu replied, you guys leave this place first to prevent Song Wu from doing anything desperate. Taking a deep breath, Ningyu said in a low voice, after you leave, think of a way to evacuate the people in Four Corner City. Ningyu, I think there might be a change in the situation. Hearing Ningyu's words, Elder Tianji frowned slightly and said, I did a divination just now, and the divination showed 4 words. Enemies have invaded. Enemies have invaded? Ningyu was slightly taken aback and said, what do you mean? To put it simply, your former enemies are about to enter the battlefield. Elder Tianji said in a certain tone, I have many enemies in the past who will enter the battlefield and influence the situation. Ningyu said doubtfully, crack. However, before Ningyu could finish his sentence, a sudden change occurred. The void suddenly broke, and a figure dashed out of the space, charging at Ningyu at a terrifying speed. Chi-Chi. This figure was shockingly fast, and even the friction with the air made a hissing sound. Not good. The sudden change caused Ningyu's expression to change drastically. Others might not know who the martial artist rushing toward him was, but he himself was very clear about it. Lu Chuanji. Lu Chuanji was at the peak of the Saint Realm. Back in the Emperor Palace, if Lu Chuanji hadn't deceived him with Smiling Tiger's self-explosion, Ningyu and the others would have died there. Now that Lu Chuanji had returned, how could Ningyu not be shocked? While he was shocked, Ningyu's heart sank to the bottom. Originally, Song Wu, who was at the peak of the Sage Realm, was enough to give him a headache. Now that Lu Chuanji, who was at the peak of the Sage Realm, had appeared, the situation instantly became even worse. You can wear out iron shoes in fruitless searching, only to find it by chance. Ningyu, this day next year will be the anniversary of your death. While flying, Lu Chuanji said coldly, speaking of which, I really have to thank the late-stage sage martial artist you gave me. Because of him, my strength has improved a little, and the combat power that I can use in this low-level celestial spirit realm has increased by at least 10%. Looking at Lu Chuanji, who was approaching him, Ningyu's eyes turned rapidly as he thought of a countermeasure. From Lu Chuanji's current posture, it was obvious that he would not give up until he achieved his goal. This situation was the most difficult to deal with. Bribe? Use his strength to resist. Escape? Ningyu knew very well that no matter what method he used, he would definitely not be able to escape from Lu Chuanji. Hurry up and leave. Seeing that Lu Chuanji was about to rush to Ningyu's side, Ning Lu pushed Ningyu away and used all his strength to attack Lu Chuanji. Ning Lu's intention was very clear. Sacrifice him so that Ningyu could leave. However, Ningyu treated Ning Lu as his brother. How could he step on his brother's shoulder to escape? Moreover, even if he left now, it would definitely be too late. After all, it would be difficult to escape from a martial artist at the peak of the sage realm. How dare you? In the time it took for a spark to fly off a flint, a roar came from midair. Hearing this roar, Lu Chuanji paused for a moment and looked over. Damn! This glance caused Lu Chuanji to stop his attack. Lu Chuanji's gaze was fixed on the little Qilin. A living Qilin was terrifyingly valuable. Dan Qi, ethereal body. Moreover, Lu Chuanji also discovered Guyan, who was in the late phase sage realm, and Zun, who was in the middle phase sage realm. A Qilin was already very attractive to Lu Chuanji. In addition to Dan Qi, who was in the late phase sage realm, and ethereal body, who was in the middle phase sage realm, it was completely reasonable for Lu Chuanji to give up on attacking Ningyu. However, although Lu Chuanji gave up on attacking, he still casually waved his hand. Puchi! The cold light flew over and collided with Ning Lu, sending him flying and spurting out a large mouthful of blood. Ice-looking man. What made Lu Chuanji surprised was that this wasn't the end. When he saw the cold-looking man in Haoping's hand, Lu Chuanji instantly understood. Same old trick. These words appeared in Lu Chuanji's mind. Back then, Ningyu had used this trick to scare him away. Now, Ningyu wanted to use the same method to scare away the pinnacle sage realm martialist. I can totally sit on a mountain and watch the tigers fight. I can let Ningyu use the explosion of the cold-looking man to scare away the pinnacle sage realm martialist. Then, I can enjoy the Qilin and ethereal body alone. In an instant, many thoughts flashed through Lu Chuanji's mind. The last thought left a deep impression in Lu Chuanji's mind. Swoosh! Thinking of this, Lu Chuanji's figure flashed, and he found a place in the air to float. He crossed his arms in front of his chest and acted like he was watching a show. Damn it! In fact, Songwu had already noticed Lu Chuanji when he appeared. However, even if Qilin and Ziyun didn't stop, he naturally wouldn't stop first. However, now that Lu Chuanji was acting like he was watching a show, he completely put down his pride. He forcefully blasted out a move and forced Qilin and Ziyun to retreat. Then, he grabbed Jin Fei and flew to another area. Songwu retreated. Little Qilin and Ziyun hurriedly returned to Ningyu's side. Even the cold-looking man, and Haoping, also returned the way he came and stood next to Ningyu. Lu Chuanji, Songwu, and Ningyu's group were protecting the city. None of them took the initiative to attack. The situation was a little confusing at the moment. The three parties seemed to be at peace with each other, but each had their own fears. Originally, Ningyu's side was the weakest side. However, with Lu Chuanji as a hindrance, they became the stronger side. Because Lu Chuanji and Songwu were both arrogant people. One was the young master of the sacred divine palace, and the other was the favorite of Gong Yangqing. The probability of their cooperation was extremely low. All things considered, Ningyu's group would not be in danger for the time being. Tick-tock, tick-tock. None of the three parties spoke. They all chose to remain silent. Time was ticking away. Ningyu could drag it out, no matter how long he dragged it out. However, Lu Chuanji and Song Wu couldn't drag it out for long. Song Wu's mission was to bring a Qilin back to Elixir Emperor City and hand it over to Gong Yangqing. Chapter 1813. Lu Chuanji knew how powerful the demonic humans were. Under the circumstances where there was an energy seal in his body, he was still able to erupt with such a shocking battle power. One could imagine, once the energy seal was broken, just how much would his strength increase to. At the very least, Lu Chuanji knew that he was no match for the human demon at the same cultivation level. Therefore, among the three forces, Lu Chuanji and Song Wu were the most anxious. There is no enmity between us. We can work together. Song Wu was the first to lose his patience. After all, Gong Yangqing was waiting over at Alchemy Emperor City. He could not afford to delay Gong Yangqing's important matter. Originally, Lu Chuanji was worried about the arrival of the human demons, so he wanted to take the initiative to join hands with Song Wu. But now that Song Wu took the initiative to bring it up, Lu Chuanji was naturally very happy. Because when it came to joining forces, whoever suggested it first would be at a disadvantage. Qilin and ethereal body belong to me. That late-stage Saint Pellet belongs to you. Song Wu said, "Have you lost your mind?" Hearing Song Wu's distribution method, Lu Chuanji almost died of anger. There were only 3 useful people in total. Qilin, ethereal body, pill puppet of the late sage stage. In terms of importance, the Qilin was on par with the ethereal body, while the late-stage sage pill puppet was the least important. Now, that Song Wu had asked for both the ethereal body and the Kirin. If he wasn't crazy, then he was treating Lu Chuanji like a fool. What's the hurry? I'm not done yet. Song Wu frowned and said, apart from the late-stage sage Dan Ming, I'll leave Ningyu and the rest to you. Since you're not sincere, then let's not talk anymore. Lu Chuanji also had a temper. He said coldly, continue to drag it out. Anyway, I have plenty of time. There's no hurry. We can drag out slowly. After saying this, Lu Chuanji raised his eyebrows at Song Wu, then shifted his gaze to Ningyu, as if he wanted to cooperate with Ningyu. Seeing Lu Chuanji's action, Song Wu was so angry that his nose became crooked. If Lu Chuanji really cooperated with Ningyu, then he was basically done for. Of the 3 forces, the weakest was Ningyu's side. His and Lu Chuanji's strength should be about the same. Once 2 factions joined forces, the other faction would be doomed. Therefore, when Lu Chuanji looked at Ningyu, Song Wu immediately gritted his teeth and said in a deep voice, I can give you the empty spirit body again. In Song Wu's heart, it was impossible for Qilin to give up, because the Qilin was specifically requested by Gong Yangqing. As for the ethereal body, Ziyun, and the late-phase Saint Realm pill puppet Guyan, he could give them away. In short, the Qilin and the empty spirit body belong to me. Danqi and Ningyu are yours. Lu Chuanji stated his request. This is my bottom line. That's impossible. Song Wu shook his head and said, the others can be discussed, but I must have the Qilin. Discuss? How are you going to discuss this with me? I also want the Qilin. You can choose the rest. Lu Chuanji raised his eyebrows and said sinisterly. Song Wu had exposed too much. From Song Wu's attitude, Lu Chuanji could easily tell that he wanted the Qilin and was determined to get it. When both sides negotiated, he knew the other party's bottom line. He would definitely take the initiative and get the greatest benefits. Don't force me. If you anger me, I can cooperate with Ningyu and the others. Song Wu said fiercely. I don't care. Lu Chuanji shrugged and had an indifferent attitude. Although Lu Chuanji looked indifferent on the surface, he was very nervous in his heart. If Song Wu really reached an agreement with Ningyu, it would be disastrous for him. However, Lu Chuanji also had confidence. No matter how he looked at it, it was impossible for Ningyu to reach an agreement with Song Wu. Because Song Wu wanted the Qilin, and Ningyu would definitely not be stupid enough to give the Qilin to Song Wu. This was not only a matter of principle, but also a matter of betraying a friend. Ningyu, Are we going to keep dragging this on like this? Lu Chuanji was still wrangling with Song Wu over there, but Ningyu had already started chatting with Ning Lu. Ning Lu looked at Lu Chuanji and Song Wu with a face full of worry and said in a low voice, "If we continue to delay, I'm afraid there will be more people coming out from the transportation formation. If we don't continue to delay, are you going to come out and deal with Song Wu and Lu Chuanji?" Ningyu rolled his eyes and said, "Relax, be confident. What we need to do now is relax and be confident and pretend that someone is coming to help." "What do you mean?" Ning Lu frowned, not knowing what Ningyu meant. "Isn't that simple? I got the news from Zhang Shui that Song Wu has to bring the little Qilin to Pill Emperor City. So if we continue to delay, Song Wu will definitely be the first to give up." Ningyu shrugged and said with a very confident look, "As for Lu Chuanji, don't be fooled by his confident appearance. In reality, he is even more worried than you, Song Wu." "Why would Lu Chuanji be worried?" Ning Lu was puzzled and completely confused. Ningyu glared at Ning Lu and said, "Lu Chuanji is worried about the human devil." "Human devil?" Ning Lu was still very confused. Ningyu's face was full of black lines. Ning Lu didn't know about the human devil. Back in the Moling Mountain Range, Ning Lu and the Dark Emperor had returned to Giant Shield City first. Ning Lu naturally didn't know what happened after that with the human devil. Anyway, don't worry about it. You just need to know that you don't need to do anything right now. Just wait here quietly. Ningyu waved his hand, indicating that Ning Lu shouldn't think too much. After that, Ningyu moved his gaze towards the little Qilin and said, "Please pay more attention to the teleportation formation in the depths of the immortal crystal vein. Notify me at the first possible moment if there's even the slightest sign of trouble." "Don't worry. I know what to do." The little Qilin nodded to show that it wasn't stupid. After giving a few hurried instructions, Ningyu sat cross-legged on the ground and slowly closed his eyes. "What are you doing?" Ning Lu was puzzled when he saw Ningyu's actions. "Cultivating a break through to the late stage of Sky Supreme." Ningyu replied indifferently. Ning Lu opened his mouth, wanting to say something, but he didn't know what to say when he heard Ningyu's words. "You really have a big heart. The fire is about to burn your ass, but you still have the heart to cultivate and break through to the late stage of Sky Supreme? Cut the crap. Hurry up and give me the pure energy you absorbed from Serene. I want to break through to the late stage of Sky Supreme." Just as Ning Lu was in a daze, Ningyu's voice rang out in his ears. "What the F***CK?" Ning Lu immediately cursed. He had indeed absorbed a lot of pure energy from Serene, but he'd left it for himself to break through to the peak of Sky Supreme. If he gave it to Ningyu, how could he break through to the peak of Sky Supreme? Moreover, even if he gave it to Ningyu, Ningyu wouldn't be able to break through to the late stage of Sky Supreme. There was a wolf in front and a tiger behind. Chapter 1814. Are you really going to break through to the late stage Sky Supreme? Although Ning Lu felt that it was a little unbelievable, he still understood Ningyu very well. Generally speaking, Ningyu wouldn't do something he wasn't confident in. At first, it sounded like Ningyu was a little rash to break through to the late stage Sky Supreme now. But on second thought, it made a lot of sense. First, Song Wu and Lu Chuanji were in a stalemate. The two were suspicious of each other and focused on each other. If Ningyu were to break through to the late stage Sky Supreme now, it would naturally put a lot of pressure on them. Putting aside whether he could reach the late phase Heavenly Sovereign Realm, even if he failed, it wouldn't be a loss to Ningyu. Perhaps Lu Chuanji and Song Wu would think that Ningyu had a trump card and wouldn't dare to act rashly. Of course it's true. Cut the crap and give me the pure energy. Ningyu waved his hand impatiently. "I'll make you pay for delaying my plans." Swish! Ning Lu couldn't be bothered with Ningyu. With a flick of his wrist, he tossed an interspatial pouch to Ningyu. "Ha!" Ningyu stretched out his right hand and caught the storage bag firmly. He then took out a small piece of leaf from inside. Holy shit! Ningyu's jaw almost dropped when he sensed the terrifying energy contained within the leaf. The pure energy within the leaf wasn't little. but a lot. It was terrifyingly abundant. According to Ning Yu's initial estimates, once he devoured all the energy, forget about the late-stage Sky Supreme, he might even be able to break through to the peak Sky Supreme. No. Ning Lu felt that Ning Yu's smile was a little strange. He hurriedly reached into his pocket and began to inspect it. Don't. This inspection caused Ning Lu's expression to change drastically. He wanted to rush up and snatch the interspatial pouch back. Ning Lu had prepared 2 interspatial pouches. One of the storage bags naturally contained the pure energy he had devoured from Shuro. As for the second storage bag, it was the energy he had accumulated over the years. Ning Lu had originally planned to give the first storage bag to Ning Yu, but he had accidentally given the second storage bag to Ning Yu. Giving the first storage bag to Ning Yu had already made Ning Lu's heart ache. Now that the second storage bag had fallen into Ning Yu's hands, how could he not panic? In a panic, Ning Lu rushed out, wanting to snatch the storage bag back. Whoosh! However, when Ning Yu saw the amount of energy in the storage bag, he had already prepared a backup plan. Zhang Chong moved and blocked Ning Lu's way. Get out of my way! Seeing that Ning Yu had already started to devour the energy, Ning Lu became very anxious and scolded Zhang Chong. Be careful. I won't be polite to you. Don't make things difficult for me. It's Ning Yu's order. Zhang Chong was expressionless. Fine. You win. Zhang Chong's cultivation was at the mid-stage Saint Realm. Ning Lu knew that he wasn't his match, so he could only leave some harsh words and sit cross-legged next to Ning Yu. Taking out the first storage bag, Ning Lu took out a golden leaf and began to devour the energy within the golden leaf in a frenzy. Ning Lu's idea was simple. Since you want to reach the late-stage Sky Supreme, fine, I'll do it too, but I'll reach the peak Sky Supreme. If I don't have enough energy, you'll definitely give me back the extra energy. What are the two of them doing? Yinmu watched Ning Yu and Ning Lu's actions with his mouth slightly open. He was a little dumbfounded. The fire is burning your eyebrows, and you still dare to cultivate here? You're simply courting death. What else? One is trying to reach the late-stage Sky Supreme, and the other is trying to reach the peak Sky Supreme. The Elder of Heavenly Secrets did not make a fuss. He shrugged his shoulders and said, "What we need to do now is relax. Do everything possible to relax and pretend that nothing has happened." Really? Yinmu asked hesitantly. Listen to me, yes. Elder Tianji nodded lightly, then slowly closed his eyes as if entering some kind of ethereal realm. Why is he trying to reach the late-stage Sky Supreme now? Although Lu Chuanji and Song Wu were arguing fiercely, they were very concerned about Ning Yu's every move. Especially when they saw Ning Yu start to break through to the late-stage Sky Supreme, they instantly stopped talking and started guessing Ning Yu's intentions. Could it be that Ning Yu really has nothing to fear? As the young master of Sacred Divine Palace, Lu Chuanji had always thought about many things. Through Ning Yu's attempt to break through to the late-stage Sky Supreme, he thought that Ning Yu might have a backup plan, a very big one at that. Otherwise, why would Ning Yu dare to break through to the late-stage Sky Supreme now? Bang! Looking at Ning Yu's posture, it didn't seem like he was putting on a show, because every once in a while, there would be a muffled sound. Every muffled sound represented that Ning Yu had broken through to the late-stage Sky Supreme. Rumble, rumble. Just as Lu Chuanji's thoughts were running wild, a terrifying rumble suddenly rang out not far from them. Lu Chuanji was dumbfounded when he heard the terrifying rumbling sounds. He reached the late-stage Sky Supreme, just like that. Lu Chuanji raised his head and glanced at Ning Yu. He felt like he couldn't wrap his head around it. Even in the Sacred Divine Palace, it was rare for someone to break through from the mid-stage Sky Supreme to the late-stage Sky Supreme in such a short time. In other words, even in Sacred Divine Palace, Ning Yu was one of the top geniuses. Gulp. Compared to Lu Chuanji's shock, Song Wu was even more shocked. Ning Yu always managed to surprise him, catching him off guard. Originally, he was determined to obtain the little Qilin, the pill puppet, and the empty spiritual body. But Lu Chuanji's sudden appearance on the battlefield disrupted all his plans. Now that Ning Yu had broken through to the late-stage Sky Supreme, How could he not be shocked? The essence of the world tree is really monstrous. Ningyu didn't know what Lu Chuanji and Song Wu were thinking. Right now, he was extremely shocked. When he received the storage bag and the golden leaf, to be honest, even Ningyu didn't think he could break through to the late-stage Sky Supreme in such a short time. Just because some things couldn't be imagined didn't mean they wouldn't happen. After Ningyu absorbed a portion of the pure energy in the golden leaf, he quickly broke through his limit and reached the late-stage Sky Supreme. Moreover, Ningyu could clearly feel it. If he absorbed all the remaining energy in the golden leaf, there was a high chance he could break through to the Sage Realm. However, Ningyu wasn't a fool. Breaking through to the Sage Realm now was the most unwise choice. Ningyu dared to break through to the peak Sky Supreme now, but he didn't dare to break through to the Sage Realm. Hurry up and return the energy to me. I want to break through to the half-Sage Realm. Chapter 1815. You want to break through to the half-Saint Realm? Ningyu's eyes widened when he heard Ning Lu's words. Disbelief filled his face. How could Ning Lu dare to think about breaking through to the half-Saint Realm? The half-Saint Realm and the Sage Realm were two very big thresholds. Although Ningyu had only used a few minutes to break through from the mid-stage Sky Supreme to the late-stage Sky Supreme, it was done with the help of the World Tree's essence. How could it be so easy for Ning Lu to break through to the half-Saint Realm? In other words, even if Ning Lu could really break through to the half-Saint Realm, it would take a lot of time. After such a long period of time, who knew what kind of trouble would happen? At the very least, Lu Chuanji and Song Wu wouldn't allow Ning Lu to break through to the half-Saint Realm just like that. Don't cause trouble for me. I can return the energy to the Sun Dark Crystal. Ningyu's expression was solemn as he turned to look at Ning Lu. However, Ningyu had only spoken halfway when he stopped abruptly, and he directly cursed. Peak Sky Supreme. Ningyu clearly remembered that Ning Lu only devoured the energy after he devoured it. He had broken through from the mid-stage Sky Supreme to the late-stage Sky Supreme, while Ning Lu had broken through from the late-stage Sky Supreme to the peak Sky Supreme. Although they had both increased their cultivation by a level, there was no comparison between the two. Ningyu had broken through to the late-stage Sky Supreme, so his strength should be comparable to a mid-stage sage. He could even kill a mid-stage sage if he used his trump card. Ning Lu, on the other hand, could fight against a late-stage sage. That was the difference. Don't do anything stupid. Ningyu's expression was gloomy as he scolded Ning Lu. Don't drag us down if you want to die. Why would I want to die? Ning Lu said unhappily. I took the wrong storage bag, and you didn't want to exchange it with me, so I could only resort to this. Resort my ass. Tell me the truth. Why did you secretly store so much energy? And all of them are the essence of the world tree. Ningyu's face was black as he replied coldly. Previously, before you took on a human form, you could still produce a Xingyang pill every once in a while. But ever since you've successfully taken on a human form, forget about Xingyang pills, I can't even see a single bit of energy from you. Ning Lu rolled his eyes and said, I must have stored so much of the essence of the world tree to break through to the Saint Realm. Do you think I can break through to the Saint Realm with the little energy you gave me? I can't outtalk you. With a flick of his wrist, Ningyu returned the rest of the purified world tree to Ning Lu. Ningyu was very clearly aware that since Ning Lu had stored so much of the world tree's essence, and even didn't hesitate to charge into the half-saint realm to threaten him, then Ningyu naturally had his own reasons. Regarding this, Ningyu did not want to interfere with Ning Lu. If Ning Lu wanted to say it, he would definitely say it. Ningyu knew that if he didn't want to say it, he wouldn't be able to get it out no matter how hard he asked. Swoosh! Catching the storage bag that Ningyu threw over, Ning Lu carefully put in his arms and said to Ningyu solemnly, If we can get out of here alive, I want to ask you for a favor. Seeing Ning Lu's serious expression, Ningyu asked telepathically, What is it? Actually, Ningyu and Ning Lu were communicating through telepathy. Fortunately, Ning Yu's soul force had advanced to the pinnacle of the rank 9 realm. Otherwise, his communication with Ning Lu would not have been concealed from Lu Chuanji and Song Wu. Exposing the Qilin was not a big deal. After all, there was more than one Qilin in this world. However, if Ning Lu was exposed as the world tree, then the consequences would be unthinkable. Ning Yu was sure. As long as Ning Lu's true identity was exposed, it would only take 3 minutes at most for all the forces to gather in Four Corner City. With the celestial spirit region in chaos, the forces from all the higher planes would wait for the opportunity to descend many pinnacle experts. Among these pinnacle experts, there would definitely be some who had absolute trump cards. According to Ning Yu's speculation, there would definitely be someone who could shield the plane barrier in a short time and display combat power that surpassed the Sage Realm. If there was anything in the celestial spirit region that was worth these experts revealing their trump cards, there were probably only two. One was the power of origin, and the other was the world tree. It's not a big deal. I just want you to find me 10,000 immortal crystals. I have a use for them. Ning Lu scratched his head and said with slight embarrassment. Puffed. As soon as Ning Lu finished speaking, Ning Yu almost spat out a mouthful of blood. 10,000 immortal crystals? How dare you say that? One had to know that for the Four Corner City, this mine that only had 1,000 immortal crystals, the four empires had sent late-stage sage martial artists over. One could imagine how many people would be attracted by 10,000 immortal crystals. No problem, Ning Yu said in a low voice. When I reach the pinnacle of the Sage Realm, I will definitely find a way to help you find 10,000 immortal crystals. Don't. I'm in a hurry. Hearing Ning Yu's words, Ning Lu hurriedly said, You have to find 10,000 immortal crystals before the conference in Alchemy Emperor City starts, or it will be too late. What do you want? Why are you in such a hurry? Ning Yu frowned and asked, I can sense where the roots of the world tree are. Taking a deep breath, Ning Lu said, But with my current strength, if I want to get close to the roots of the world tree and merge with it, I will need at least 10,000 immortal crystals. The roots of the world tree. Ning Yu's expression changed drastically. There was no need to repeat the importance of the world tree. Ning Yu knew better than anyone that as long as Ning Lu could merge with the roots of the world tree, his strength would increase by at least a few levels. In other words, after merging with the roots of the world tree, Ning Lu's cultivation would break through the limits of the Sage Realm and advance to a higher level. At that time, who in the entire celestial spirit region will be a match for them? Of course, Ning Yu knew that it was pointless to think about all this now. Just 10,000 immortal crystals was enough for him to drink a pot of water. Can I use something else instead? Ning Yu asked in a low voice. To be honest, Ning Yu was not confident that he would be able to find 10,000 immortal crystals in the celestial spirit region. But if he could use something else instead, Ning Yu felt that he could give it a try. No, I can only use immortal crystals. Ning Lu shook his head and poured a bucket of cold water on Ning Yu. Rumble. However, before Ning Lu could finish his sentence, Lu Chuanji and Song Wu, who were on the other side, seemed to have broken down and started fighting. The scene of two martial artists at the pinnacle of the Sage Realm fighting was truly terrifying. All kinds of spells flew out, shattering the void. Song Wu, if I can't get the Kirin today, don't even think about getting it. In midair, Lu Chuanji said coldly as he fought with Song Wu, I have a very special trait. If I can't get something, I will destroy it. As he spoke, Lu Chuanji forced Song Wu to retreat and charged at the little Kirin. If you want to kill the little Kirin, you should at least ask for my opinion. Chapter 1816. Damn it. Retreat quickly. Seeing Lu Chuanji and Song Wu rush out, Ning Yu's expression changed, and he hurriedly shouted at the little Qilin. Ning Yu was not a fool. Although Lu Chuanji and Song Wu seemed to be opposing each other on the surface, Ning Yu knew very well that Lu Chuanji and Song Wu must have reached some kind of agreement. Song Wu needed to bring the little Qilin to the Pill Emperor City, so the ownership of the little Qilin would definitely belong to him. As for everything else, it would probably be given to Lu Chuanji. Actually, this was what Ningyu was most worried about. Lu Chuanji and Song Wu were both at the peak of the Sage Realm, so they could continue to oppose each other. Once the two of them joined forces, it would be an extravagant hope to continue to drag on. Bring Zhang Shui here. Ningyu forced himself to calm down and said in a deep voice, if Song Wu dares to continue to attack, kill Zhang Shui for me. Whoosh! Ning Lu grabbed Zhang Shui's head, threw it to the ground, and stepped on it. You can't catch the wolf without sacrificing the child. Song was close to going crazy. In front of the Qilin, he naturally did not care about a mere late sage realm Zhang Shui. Crack! Seeing that Song Wu had no intention of stopping, Ning Lu made a prompt decision and stomped his right foot hard. A crisp sound was heard. Zhang Shui couldn't understand why. Song Wu clearly had the chance to save him, so why was he so ruthless? Split up. For Song Wu and Lu Chuanji, since their plan had been seen through by Ningyu, they would not be able to speed up if they continued to work together. On the contrary, they would slow down their pace. Therefore, they immediately split up. Song Wu rushed towards the little Qilin, while Lu Chuanji rushed towards Gu Yin and Ziyun. As for Jin Fei, he carefully retreated to the other side and chose to hide. Although the little Qilin, Gu Yin, and Ziyun were stalled, Jin Fei could feel that Ning Lu, who had advanced to the peak of the Sky Supreme Realm, was already comparable to a late Sage Realm warrior. Coupled with an Haoping, who had the cold-looking man with him, Jin Fei would probably become a live target if he appeared in Ningyu's sight again. In order to survive, Jin Fei did not dare to stay in the same place. Where are you going? However, after killing Zhang Shui, Ning Lu's attention instantly shifted to Jin Fei. Now that Jin Fei wanted to escape, he naturally couldn't hide it from Ning Lu's eyes. With a roar, Ning Lu raised his speed to the limit and dashed toward Jin Fei in an instant. Previously, Ning Lu's cultivation was low, so even if he wanted to deal with Jin Fei, he couldn't do anything. Now that the opportunity had come, how could Ning Lu let go of such a good opportunity? Rumble. Ning Lu's speed was very fast. In almost an instant, he arrived in front of Jin Fei. A loud explosion was heard. Following this, the battle between Ning Lu and Jin Fei took place. And Haoping, Go, and helped Ziyun and the rest. Ningyu stared at the battlefield of Ning Lu and Jin Fei. Then he looked away and said in a low voice, Zhang Chang, go to the depths of the fairy crystal lode and see if the teleportation formation is still usable. Whoosh! Whoosh! Hearing Ningyu's order, and Haoping and Zhang Chang didn't dare to be slow. They dashed out in two different directions. The reason why Haoping went to help Ziyun and the rest was because Ziyun and Gu Yin couldn't contend with a pinnacle sacred realm cultivator. If they didn't have any external help, the two of them would definitely be the first to be defeated. Gu Yin was a late-stage sacred realm pellet puppet. His overall strength wasn't weak. Ziyun was a mid-stage sacred realm pellet puppet. Her battle strength wasn't any weaker than Gu Yin. In fact, she might even be slightly stronger than Gu Yin. As for Haoping, he was a peerless expert of the demon spirit realm and clan. If the three of them worked together, they could at least delay Song Wu for 10 minutes. If they could delay Song Wu for 10 minutes, the situation on the little Qilin's side wasn't as optimistic. Firstly, the little Qilin's cultivation was only in the mid-stage sacred realm. Secondly, Lu Chuanji wasn't as strong as Song Wu. I have to find a way. Ningyu moved his feet left and right with a sinister expression on his face. Everyone could understand the current situation. They definitely couldn't drag it out. Whichever side couldn't hold on first would be the first to be defeated. No matter how he looked at it, the little Qilin and the rest would be defeated first. The teleportation array can still be used, but it requires at least 20 immortal crystals. Just when Ningyu was thinking about how to resolve the current predicament, Zhang Chang's voice suddenly entered his ears. Ningyu was slightly taken aback by the voice that came into his ears. Then, he revealed a pleasantly surprised expression. Since 20 immortal crystals could activate the teleportation array, then Ningyu might, as well take a gamble and enter the teleportation array to reach the Pill Emperor City. Even if the other end of the teleportation array was within the Pill Emperor City, Ningyu could use his powerful soul force to disrupt the direction of the teleportation array and teleport himself to another direction. Spatial turbulence. As matters stood, Ningyu had already decided to trigger the spatial turbulence. For all the teleportation arrays, the one thing that they didn't want to encounter the most was spatial turbulence. If they were to encounter the spatial turbulence in the teleportation array, it wouldn't bode well for them. However, no matter how dangerous it was in the spatial turbulence, it wasn't half as dangerous as staying here. Zhao Guocheng, go to the Square restaurant and inform Grandmaster Xing Yun and the rest. Tell them that those who want to go to the Pill Emperor City can set off now. Those who don't want to go can return to the Thousand Leaf Empire first. Regarding the matter of Supreme Palace, Ningyu didn't tell Zhao Guocheng. However, Ningyu knew that even if he didn't reveal Supreme Palace, Grandmaster Xing Yun would be able to analyze some things from a few words. Leave it to me, Zhang Guocheng patted his chest and guaranteed. I will definitely pass the news to Grandmaster Xing Yun accurately. If others fought fiercely, Zhang Guocheng would be no different from cannon fodder if he stayed. Therefore, Zhao Guocheng couldn't wait to leave. Now that there was such a good opportunity to leave and he wouldn't be threatened by Ningyu, Zhao Guocheng was naturally very excited. Swoosh! With a flash, Zhao Guocheng hurriedly tore the void and disappeared. The other 3 battlefields had already reached the climax. At this time, Zhao Guocheng's departure naturally wouldn't attract their attention. I advise you to be more obedient. Otherwise, I won't be polite, Song Wu said coldly after forcing the little Qilin back with a move. I want to see how you will be rude to me. The little Qilin revealed a disdainful look and said, Your strength isn't much stronger than mine. You want to capture me alive? Dream on. Even if you don't think for yourself, you should think for Ningyu. Song Wu knew that what the little Qilin said was not without reason. The current him indeed found it difficult to capture the little Qilin alive. However, just because it was difficult to capture alive didn't mean that it couldn't be captured alive. In a blink of an eye, Song Wu's figure flashed out and charged straight at Ningyu. Moreover, in the process of advancing, Song Wu suddenly erupted with 3 terrifying auras. 3 auras attacked Ningyu from 3 directions, leaving only Ningyu's only escape route. Chapter 1817. At this time, Song Wu's intention to chase Ningyu into the immortal crystal vein was already very clear. There was a teleportation array in the deepest part of the immortal crystal vein. No need to think, Song Wu definitely wanted to chase Ningyu to the teleportation array. Song Wu's thinking was very simple. As long as he chased Ningyu to the teleportation array, little Qilin would definitely follow. Second, at that time, he could suddenly activate the teleportation array and bring Ningyu and little Qilin away. The other end of the teleportation array was located inside the Pill Emperor City's Alchemy Union. Here, due to Lu Chuanji eyeing covetously from the side, Song Wu did not dare to really use his full strength to capture little Qilin alive. It was better to be safe than sorry. If little Qilin resisted with all its might and used some super strong trump card to injure him, the one who would benefit in the end would probably be Lu Chuanji. Don't look at how he and Lu Chuanji were currently in a cooperative relationship. Once one suffered injuries, the other would definitely hit him while he was down. Therefore, Song Wu wanted to activate the teleportation array and bring Ningyu and little Qilin into the Pill Emperor City. Not good. Little Qilin had been fighting fiercely with Song Wu. Seeing that Song Wu turned to attack Ningyu and wanted to chase Ningyu to the deepest part of the immortal crystal vein, his expression immediately changed and he rushed out, wanting to save Ningyu before he entered the teleportation array. Fight! However, little Qilin might have overlooked Song Wu's strength. Since Song Wu decided to chase Ningyu to the teleportation array, he definitely made preparations to stop him. Swish! Suddenly, A scroll scurried out from Song Wu's body and rushed towards little Qilin with a terrifying speed. Damn it! Little Qilin originally rushed out with all its strength. Now that it was blocked by the scroll, it naturally slowed down a little. This time, little Qilin slowed down and directly pulled apart the distance between it and Song Wu. What should we do? Seeing Ningyu being chased into the immortal crystal vein by Song Wu, Yinmu revealed a worried expression and asked, "What else can we do? Hurry up and pick up all the scattered immortal crystals, then we go over too." Old man Tianji said solemnly. "We go over too?" Yinmu's mouth opened, feeling somewhat incredulous. Everyone knew that the other end of the teleportation array would be very dangerous. What was the difference between entering the teleportation array at this time and courting death? To be honest, Yinmu didn't want to follow them. Don't say that I didn't warn you. Ningyu isn't a simple person. He won't do something he isn't confident in. After saying that, old man Tianji rushed towards the immortal crystal vein. Plunder the immortal crystals first. Yinmu clenched his teeth and barked at the talisman's supremacy. Only by increasing my strength can I stand in an invincible position. Pucci. The actions of Yinmu and Elder Tianji were only a small interlude. Lu Chuanji didn't feel much pressure facing Gu Yin, Zun, and Haoping and the rest by himself. The only thing that made Lu Chuanji feel a little troubled was the cold-looking man that Haoping brought along. Although Lu Chuanji didn't believe that the cold-looking man would really blow himself up, he changed his mind when he saw Ningyu enter the Fairyland mineral vein. When Ningyu was around, the cold-looking man definitely wouldn't blow himself up. Now that Ningyu was rushing towards the Fairyland mineral vein, getting further and further away from him, who knew if the cold-looking man would blow himself up? Therefore, as Lu Chuanji fought, he slowly moved towards the Fairyland mineral vein. In the last battlefield, originally, Ning Lu had the upper hand against Jin Fei. In addition to Zhang Chong joining the battle, the balance was completely tilted towards Ning Lu. Jin Fei felt the pressure getting heavier. Where there's life, there's hope. Jin Fei wasn't a fool. With the current situation, there was no reason for him to stay. We'll meet again in the future. Since you've offended the Jin family, all of you shall die. Before leaving, Jin Fei didn't forget to leave behind a ruthless sentence. After that, Jin Fei forcefully tore through the void and entered. Due to the existence of the other two battlefields, Jin Fei believed that Ning Lu would definitely not chase after him. In the past, Ning Lu might not chase after Jin Fei. He would turn around and help Ningyu. But now, Ning Lu knew that even if he joined the other two battlefields, he wouldn't be of much help. It was better to get rid of Jin Fei completely. Lunatic. Feeling that Ning Lu was chasing after him desperately, Jin Fei couldn't help but shout, "Wrong. If you had stayed and fought with me, I might not have killed you so early." Ning Lu tore through the void and blocked Jin Fei's way out. He said lightly, "Thank you for running away and giving me an opening." "Impossible. Even if I ran away, I would never give you any opening." Jin Fei roared. "Really? You can look behind you." Ning Lu shrugged and said, "Don't lie to me. I will never be fooled." "Puff," Jin Fei said coldly. Before he finished his sentence, Jin Fei opened his mouth and suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. Looking down at the small part of the sword that was sticking out of his heart, Jin Fei turned his head and looked behind him. When he saw the familiar face behind him, Jin Fei trembled and fell to the ground. Phew! Seeing that Zhang Chong had killed Jin Fei, Ning Lu let out a long breath and said, "Thank you. Give me his primordial spirit." Zhang Chong hesitated for a moment, and then flicked his wrist and threw the flying sword to Ning Lu. At their level, when killing an enemy, the first thing they would do was to detain the enemy's primordial spirit. Originally, Zhang Chong wanted to use Jin Fei's primordial spirit to exchange for his own. But he knew that with only Jin Fei's primordial spirit, and Ning Lu being the main force in this battle, he probably wouldn't be able to gain Ning Yu's trust in exchange for freedom. "Ha!" Ning Lu didn't care what Zhang Chong was thinking. He caught the flying sword, and without saying anything, he swallowed Jin Fei's primordial spirit on the spot. Seeing that Ning Lu had swallowed Jin Fei's primordial spirit, Zhang Chong opened his mouth and his eyeballs almost fell out of his eye sockets. He had seen others swallowing primordial spirits before, but he had never seen it like this. Burp! After swallowing Jin Fei's primordial spirit, Ning Lu didn't forget to burp and pat his stomach in satisfaction. Not bad, not bad. After advancing to the pinnacle of Sky Supreme, my devouring ability has increased by quite a bit. Ning Lu was the world tree. At its peak, the world tree could swallow anything. Ning Lu was confident that his devouring ability was probably much stronger than the Dark Emperor's. He shook his head and got rid of these thoughts in his mind. Ning Lu knew that now wasn't the time to think about these things. Since Ning Yu had gone to the deepest part of the celestial crystal vein, he had to go there too. Ning Yu had asked him about the celestial crystal vein before. Even though part of the reason for entering the celestial crystal vein now was because of Song Wu's coercion, Ning Lu knew that Ning Yu definitely wanted to enter the celestial crystal vein himself. Activate the teleportation array. This was the escape route that Ning Yu had thought of from the start. Of course, this method was the best method out of all other methods. It was a desperate measure. Ning Lu felt that Ning Yu was definitely prepared. He planned to activate the teleportation array at all costs and have a good fight with Song Wu and the others in the void. Chapter 1818. Swoosh. In the dilapidated immortal crystal mine, several figures were galloping. The three figures at the front were Ning Yu, Song Wu, and Little Qilin. The few figures in the middle were Lu Chuanji, Gu Yin, and the rest. As for the few people at the back, they were Ning Lu, Old Man Tianji, and the rest. Don't push it too hard. Song Wu turned around to look at the Little Qilin behind him, then looked at Ning Yu in front of him and muttered. Song Wu's original intention was to activate the teleportation array and bring Ning Yu and Little Qilin to Alchemy Emperor City. But the current situation was not optimistic for Song Wu. First of all, Lu Chuanji was at the back and he might cause trouble. Secondly, activating the teleportation array required 20 immortal crystals and 3 minutes. Delay for 3 minutes? Song Wu did not have this confidence. Therefore, Song Wu purposely slowed down. He didn't even mind exchanging blows with the Little Qilin to slow down his speed. From Ning Yu's actions, Song Wu saw some clues. In other words, Song Wu was basically sure that Ning Yu would find a way to activate the teleportation array. Since Ning Yu would activate the teleportation array, why not? Rumble. The immortal crystal mine was already very dilapidated, and now that Song Wu and Little Qilin were engaged in an intense battle, no one knew how long the mine could last. Under such circumstances, Little Qilin and Song Wu lowered their attack power at almost the same time. What the hell are they doing? The intense battle between Song Wu and Little Qilin naturally did not escape Lu Chuanji's eyes. Especially when he saw that Song Wu and Little Qilin did not use their full strength, Lu Chuanji became puzzled. Outside the mine, the two of them were fighting to the death. Why did it seem like they had discussed it in the mine? Lu Chuanji was very puzzled. Of course, it was natural that Lu Chuanji would feel puzzled. After all, he did not know that there was a teleportation array in the mine. If he knew that there was a teleportation array in a mine, he would definitely speed up and rush up to destroy it. To Lu Chuanji, he needed everyone downstairs except Little Qilin. If the teleportation array was activated, with Song Wu's character, he would probably drag everyone present into the teleportation array. 20 immortal crystals. After traveling at full speed, Ning Yu finally arrived at the deepest part of the immortal crystal vein. Right in front of Ning Yu was a huge round millstone. Based on his initial estimation, the round millstone could fit at least a few dozen people. Upon closer inspection, one would see a groove on each of the 4 edges of the round millstone. The design of the groove was very ingenious. It was neither too big nor too small, just the same size as an immortal crystal. Without a doubt, In order to activate this seemingly simple teleportation array, one would need to prepare at least 20 immortal crystals. Where are we going to get 20 fairy crystals? Ningyu stared at the grooves on the edge of the millstone with a solemn look on his face. 20 immortal crystals might not seem like a lot, but it wasn't anything difficult for Ningyu in the past. But now, 20 celestial crystals were enough to make Ningyu helpless. If I had known, I would have grabbed a few immortal crystals on the way here. Ningyu's eyes darted around as he thought of a countermeasure. Without immortal crystals, no matter how capable he was, he wouldn't be able to activate the teleportation array. How troublesome! Song Wu, who was fighting fiercely with the little Qilin, was constantly paying attention to Ningyu's movements. Seeing that Ningyu was standing in front of the round millstone without moving, Song Wu wished he could go over and activate the teleportation array himself. However, Song Wu knew that Ningyu could activate the teleportation array without any problems, but he couldn't. After thinking about it, Song Wu decided to pretend to be hit by the little Qilin. At the same time, a storage bag accidentally flew out of his sleeve, and the storage bag happened to contain 20 immortal crystals. Song Wu was a practical person and did what he said. He immediately revealed a flaw to the little Qilin. Poof! The little Qilin was very cooperative. It grabbed onto Song Wu's flaw and attacked Song Wu's back. Swoosh! A huge force came from his back, causing Song Wu to taste sweetness in his throat as his body fell straight forward. It was just as Song Wu thought. When his body fell forward, a storage bag suddenly flew out of his sleeve. The direction of the storage bag happened to be where Ningyu was. Piak! Seeing his storage bag flying towards him, Ningyu didn't hesitate too much as he raised his right hand and grabbed the storage bag firmly. 20 immortal crystals. After discovering that there were a total of 20 immortal crystals in the storage bag, Ningyu secretly became cautious. There were too many coincidences in the world. However, a coincidence like Song Wu's was indeed rare. Activating the teleportation array required 20 immortal crystals, and there were 20 immortal crystals in the storage bag that Song Wu threw out. Let's activate the teleportation array first. Ningyu gritted his teeth and decided to activate the teleportation array first. Only by activating the teleportation array would he have a way out and a chance of survival. Otherwise, if he were to waste time here, there wouldn't be any way out at all. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. With a thought, Ningyu opened the storage bag and poured out all 20 immortal crystals into the grooves around the millstone. The 20 immortal crystals entered the grooves. At first, they all lay flat in the grooves without any changes. 2 minutes passed, and there were still no changes to the immortal crystals. Even Ningyu felt that he might have been cheated. Chi-chi. However, just as the thought appeared in Ningyu's mind, he heard a few crisp sounds. Needless to say, the sounds came from the immortal crystals that were thrown into the grooves 2 minutes ago. Chi-chi-chi. The shocking scene of 20 immortal crystals making sounds at the same time shocked Ningyu. 1 more minute. The immortal crystals had worked. The happiest person wasn't Ningyu, but Song Wu. At this moment, Song Wu was extremely excited. He was so excited that he almost jumped up. The teleportation array was activated, and Ningyu and little Qilin were attracted to the millstone. Then, they went through the teleportation array together to Pill Emperor City. It had to be said that Song Wu's entire plan was perfect, so perfect that it was almost flawless. However, Song Wu neglected one thing. He was not the only one who wanted to activate the teleportation array. Ningyu also wanted to activate it. Song Wu knew that there was still 1 minute before the teleportation array would be completely activated. Ningyu also knew that. Song Wu only hoped that only 2 or 3 people knew, but Ningyu hoped that everyone present knew that the teleportation array was about to be activated. Although in the space, whoever had the stronger soul force had the advantage, nothing was absolute. For example, Song Wu. Although the strength of Song Wu's soul force was not as strong as Ningyu's, in the space, Ningyu might not be able to compete with Song Wu head-on by relying on the strength of peak level 9 soul force. He might even be schemed against by Song Wu. However, with Lu Chuanji, it was different. Lu Chuanji and Song Wu were on opposite sides. It was basically impossible for him to help Songwoo. Therefore, if Ningyu wanted Lu Chuanji to come forward to help, he must at least be able to check and balance Songwoo. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.